All right. This evening's event, we'll have a committee meeting discussing the pre-budget proposed budget review. I'll entertain a motion, or actually, I call this initial committee of the whole meeting to order and ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Trustee Ahrens?
Here.
Kammerer?
Here.
Carbonaro?
Here.
Martin?
Here.
Ranke?
Here.
Shipman?
Here.
President Wallace?
Here. All right. Our first item to discuss is under Finance. Trustee Ranke.
Thank you, Mr. President. We have the 2015-2016 proposed budget review at 6 p.m. sharpish. What department are we going to start with this evening?
I think we are on building, and Brian Goralski is here to review that with you folks. And we will skip some of the intro on the strategic plan and move right to the meat of the budget. So, Brian?
Good evening, trustees and mayor. Building Department is providing safe buildings, healthy businesses for over 67 years, and by doing so, the welfare of the village remains strong and prosperous. This year's budget did represent a 7% increase from our previous year. However, we came to terms on a separation.
Hey, Brian, I don't mean to interrupt you, but can you move that a little bit closer to you?
Oh, sorry.
Thank you.
Okay. Just sit up straight. You got the 7% increase. Go ahead.
Sorry about that. We came to terms on a separation agreement with my general inspector, and we have been reduced with our overall staff this year. Our department remains very busy, obviously, with miscellaneous permits. We continue to flourish, and that service alone, our department at times is overwhelmed during the construction season. And by the way, that started about a month ago here for us. Vacant building registration and re-registrations are keeping us also very, very busy, and it has greatly improved the village's appearance and safety as a result. And that's why under our not professional development, but our proposed
Personnel, page 5.
Yeah, personnel on page 5. I'm proposing that we add a part-time data entry clerk into our budget this year. For support, our department has not filled that vacant position. As a result, filing, copying, inspection entry, and permits do not always get completed in a timely manner. And thus, my support staff has been working overtime to keep up with this position being eliminated. The general building inspector's position we are going to keep open, and Valerie and I are going to monitor that progress to see, how we keep up with everything. Don and I will just assume the general building inspections and annual inspections.
Let me just summarize that briefly. That brings us down to about 1 3/4 of an inspector. As you know, we currently share our plumbing inspector with Streamwood, but we get the lion's share of his time. We think it's probably 1/4 to Streamwood, plus we have our electrical inspector. So we're going to try this out. We're going to have Don and Brian are going to go out on a lot more inspections, and we think we can do it, and that's going to, at least for some period of time, save a salary and add to the list of open positions we have. Go ahead, Brian.
Everything else has been somewhat reduced, except for professional development, in which one of my inspectors wants to attend a bachelor's degree online this year. We did cut that down from a couple credits to 2, so that's why my professional development is slightly higher. Everything else pretty much remains the same in my budget. With that proposed change, my overall budget has now been reduced or decreased by 5% from last year's budget. And if you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer.
Brian, let me ask you about the Bachelor's of Business Administration degree. Is this something that the Mr. Hennigan would use in the context of his employment with the village?
Yes. I mean, he obviously wants to pursue, a management position and that type of thing, so yeah.
Is he obligated to maintain his employment as a condition of the tuition reimbursement? So if he, terminates for whatever reason, he has to pay it back, or how does that work?
Yeah, I think he's here for the long haul. He likes the position here. He came from Lombard, and we're glad to have him here. So.
Trustee Ranke, we have an agreement that they sign, and they have to be here, I forget how many years after they, did you want to say something? 2 years, or they pay it back.
Okay.
And that's village-wide.
I beg your pardon?
That's village-wide.
That's correct.
As far as employees of the village, I should say.
It's okay.
Is there any other questions that you might have?
Let me just reiterate that we did take out all of the out-of-state professional development. So there may be some here from these proposals that came in December. If they're in there, they're out.
However, my assistant Don is going to his conference, but it is paid by the association. He's the president, so
Yeah,
it's all
free.
totally funded.
Good to see our staff active nationally. Let me ask you this about office supplies. I noticed an increase in office supplies, about 55%. What's cooking?
I think some of our printer cartridges that we anticipated, but we just received our new copy machine, so I don't anticipate them being that high. Our report forms and file envelopes, sometimes what we do is when we're scanning new files now and our document imaging, some of the old files are so depleted that we just replace them with new once we do that. So some of those costs are up when we're buying the file folders for the residential files. Yeah, I don't believe that we will exceed this year's current budget next year. So I think we just put that in there just in case. And then I think that we left in the toners, which are really expensive. So I don't anticipate having to use those, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm. And then I noticed for the vehicle maintenance, is the car wash really charging us $4 a week? I mean, if we're bringing that volume to them, I would think they'd give us a break on the price.
The fleet vehicles, we try to keep them, pretty clean, but again, that's another budget item that we don't, we put it in there, but it's not ever used. I mean,
Okay.
that often.
Okay.
So.
Thank you.
Brian, I have a question. On this part-time individual who's working 25 hours a week, would they qualify to join the IMRF part-time?
I can't.
Yeah, I think when they work over so many hours, then they're required for IMRF. I don't know what that number is, Jeff. Do you? 1,000 hours.
If they work 1,000 hours a year, then they become eligible for IMRF.
So approximately 20 hours a week.
Yeah.
And we'd probably hurt efficiency if we hired 2 people at 10 hours a week?
As far as efficiency, I'm not sure how that would work. With 2 people at 10 hours a week, we think we can accomplish that goal with the 1 part-time person.
It's also hard to train a couple of people, too, for this position to learn everything that we need them to.
You might find it hard to find 2 people to work
Right.
just 10 hours a week.
Yeah.
We could always hire 4 at 5 hours a week,
Someone got out of the shower.
but I don't think we'd have any continuity in the job that's being done.
No.
No, that's fine. It was just a question. Thank you.
Does anybody else have any questions, other questions?
No, our packet here obviously still has all of the salaries, regular salaries, that the one that is not being replaced, I'm assuming will come out of the final budget?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And all the cuts that we didn't make that aren't shown here will come out of it,
Is that something that we want to leave in the budget until we find out if that's going to work, Brian, or?
No, I feel confident that, I mean, the gentleman that we eliminated was out from last June.
Words for that. We didn't eliminate.
Oh.
Well, yes, you're correct. The position that is not being filled was out for most of last year.
Okay. And it worked out okay?
Yes.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Public Works. Dan's inaugural budget.
Good evening, Mayor and Village Board. I'm going to go through the Public Works Department budget. As you know, Public Works consists of streets and engineering, water, and sewer. I'll start with the streets budget. Overall, the budget presented is a 3% decrease, mainly due to decreasing the line item for tree trimming, which was all part of the Emerald Ash Borer issue. I'm happy to report that we are close to being done with that project. We are under 1,000 trees left to be removed, and the contractor's on schedule to be done in the May-June timeframe. So it's way ahead of schedule, which is good news. You'll see in the budget that we created some new line items and moved things around. That's better. It's so that we can better track our pavement patching, streetlight maintenance, landscape maintenance, those type of things. There'll be separate line items instead of having them clumped together. But you'll see that in the budget. As far as personnel, we currently have a vacancy. The Assistant Director of Public Works has been vacant for some time. Actually, the Assistant Director is filling the role of the Street Supervisor right now, so we're proposing to leave that vacant. But we propose to put in a MPA intern, similar to what Village Hall has, to help out with some of the administrative items. One thing that we're going to be pursuing based on the capital projects with sewer and water and streets, we've got grants and IEPA loans that requires a lot of administrative applications and following up and all that, so we were proposing to have that person help us out there. We had proposed an engineering intern, but that's not being funded. As far as capital, you'll see we've been looking at LED streetlight conversion and the grants that are out there. However, we propose to strike the capital and just increase our streetlight maintenance line item so that we can continue to change out roughly 250 streetlights a year. It's going to take time to get through. I think we have about 1,800 streetlights, but it'll allow us to change them out. One thing that we've learned is the grants for LED lights right now, they were sold out, and now there's a backlog. So there's a bunch of people in front of us. So the chances of us getting that grant right now are questionable. And one of the way they do their grant is you have to do the project up front and then you apply. So you kind of have to pay for it first and then you get reimbursed.
And it's not 100% either. There's a significant amount of money that we would have to pay towards that as part of our local share, even if we did get a grant. And I think this isn't the year that we're going to be plugging $100,000 in or some such number to convert our whole town at once. So we're going to take it a little bit more slowly and keep up with it on a smaller scale.
Well, if we do 250 at a time, can we get reimbursed for those as we go?
Well, there aren't any grants out there at all right now, so I can't answer that.
They'll be renewing in June, I believe, but that's where there's a backlog from all these people that didn't get the grant this past year. So we need to kind of let it cycle through there. We'll stay in contact and apply for grants when they become available, and if we can get a grant, then we would come back to the board and say, here's what we have available. It sounds like the incentive is also being decreased. The way they do it is, right now they're paying 30 cents per kilowatt hour saved, that number this year is being dropped to 20 cents per kilowatt hour saved. And one of the issues that we have to deal with ComEd is they're not recognizing it right now, so their rate is staying this. We have some lights that have a fixed monthly fee. So if we put in an LED light, we're still paying the same fee until they get up and adjust those rates. So we have to work on that as well.
So we'll do 250 this year and reevaluate.
That way we're at least doing some, as a light has to be replaced, why put the same thing up? We'll put in an LED, and at least we're progressing.
Well, can we only replace the ones that are not a monthly fees? Can we replace the ones that are being...
When we're looking at more as we replace lights, something that needs to be replaced, whether it's on a monthly fee or on the meter, we're changing the light.
Right, but if we have to replace 100 and we're doing 250 a year, there's another 150 we can just hit where it's not a set monthly fee, so we actually see the savings.
Right, yeah. If we pick an area and we would pick ones that are on a meter that we would actually see the savings. Right.
And just so I understand, you're replacing the lights that are otherwise burning out. So this
Right.
is a natural or attrition rather than
That's correct.
going out and figuring out a way to spend money.
Yes.
Okay.
If
All
we
right,
don't,
thank you.
if we don't have 250 lights is a lot of lights. If we don't have that many that fail, then we would start to look at doing a neighborhood or something like that, and that's where we would look at finding areas where it would be a metered location.
Dan, let me ask you, when these lights are replaced, do they look basically the same as what's in there now?
Yeah. Yes. Actually, if you drive down Newport right now, you can see we've put some in just to see what they look like.
But that's my point. It's not going to look like one's yellow, one's blue, we're not going to have this type of look, correct?
No. They actually put out more light. I mean, they're quite a bit brighter. And
But they shine down,
Right.
so they don't have the arc
Right.
that the other ones have.
Very good.
We spent too much time.
Dan, what's the approximate cost of one of these LED lights?
Changing the head itself, I think we're right now they're about $350 a piece, somewhere in that range.
And you're going to replace
350,
250 of them this year, you think?
Excuse
You'll
me?
replace 250 of them this year, you
That's
think?
what we've put in the budget to be able to have something in there to be able to replace as they fail.
All right.
I know they were coming out of the woodwork a year ago with all of the LED lights, and they'll finance it for you.
Oh, yeah.
But we're not doing that.
Of course not.
Good.
We have a large dump truck in the budget. We actually had two. One was postponed.
We call that
Cut. Well, it'll be on the list in future years. I'll hit some of the other. We've got a wheel loader in the budget. It's a 1997, time to be replaced. It's used for loading stone, dirt, or salt. And then we also had a street sweeper in the budget, and that was cut. I don't know if there's any other questions on any of these other vehicles. I can touch on that.
Why don't you walk just through them quickly?
Okay. The mud jack pump, that helps us restore sidewalks without doing a total replacement. If you have a sidewalk that's dropped, we can pump grout under the sidewalk and lift it back up to prevent the trip hazard. Small dump truck, that's one of our plow trucks that we use in the winter. We also use it during the summer to haul stone or dirt. Two staff vehicles, those are our arborists and our village engineers vehicles that need to be replaced. We've got a four-wheel pickup truck that's in our street division that's used for hauling equipment around for mowers and that type of stuff. I talked about the wheel loader. The mower lift, what that is a safer way to be able to maintain our lawnmowers. This will lift the mower up so that we can maintain it better. Right now, we kind of use jacks, and this would be a safer way to be able to maintain those.
Dan, if we can, let's be clear on that, I think. We're not talking about like the mower that I have in my yard when you're talking.
These are riding mowers, larger riding
Thank you.
mowers.
Do we have a lift like that over at the golf course?
Mower lift? I don't know. I can check with them.
No?
The 15-foot wide area mower is for some of the bigger areas that we need to mow. It'll help us complete those areas much quicker. 2 computer workstations, those would be for our senior maintenance workers. iPad for the Julie locator. Right now the guys have maps in the vehicle to be able to locate the utilities. This will allow us to have it on one device. The undercarriage washer, that's so one of the big things that we deal with is the salt, and the trucks get bombarded with salt. This will allow us to spray underneath the vehicles and keep those clean and keep them from rusting out. The broom attachment for the skid loader, we use this for pavement patching. When you grind the road, you got to sweep all that stuff up. This will help us do that quicker. And the skid loader bucket is the same type of thing. It's for our pavement patching.
Your staff vehicles, what are we replacing them with? It doesn't have.
Right now, what we're looking at, it would be something similar. We're looking at the Ford Focus, the Ford Taurus, or the C-Max, which is a Ford, kind of like a Prius version, I think. Those are the ones that are on the state bid right now that we would be looking at.
Okay, so we're talking better mileage.
Right.
Okay. I'm all for Prius.
As far as professional development, everything is the same except for the Illinois Public Services Institute management training. We're proposing to send 1 employee. This is a management training that I attended years ago. It's a great management program. It's actually a 3-year program. It's 1 week, 3 times for 3 years. We've applied for a scholarship, which would basically cut this price in half through the American Public Works Association. So we're hopeful that we can cut that cost in half. And we'll see that I also have the sewer department also has one in its budget. And then as far as associations, those are all pretty much the same. Are there any questions on street? All right.
I just have one real quick question. In the past, I know last year we went through this with Paul, and there were a lot of items on here that were previously asked for and not funded.
Right.
And it seems that this year there are a lot of brand new items. Is that...
Well, some of the vehicles were like the staff vehicles were previously asked for.
Yeah.
I sat down with the supervisors. We went through the list of things that we need right now, knowing we can't get everything. Mm-hmm. And these were the priorities that we put on there, and we adjusted from there. So,
well, the big items like this wheel loader. I mean, it was a 1997 last year as well. What deems that as something that we've... I mean, it seems to me, logically, it would have been replaced years ago. Is it getting dangerous, or what's the...
The maintenance costs are going to be going up. I mean, they already, it needs work, so it's just one of those things that you got to have it, and you need it sometimes during the winter season. You don't want a piece of equipment like that going down, because we would be in trouble.
Do you know how much we spent last year to keep it running?
I don't, but I could find out.
Just ballpark.
I don't.
And what exactly is this piece of equipment doing, Dan?
The wheel loader it's the bucket loader, basically. It'll load up the trucks with salt. So we also use it to push up the salt into our salt dome. It's loading up stone, dirt, any type of material that we need to load into any of our vehicles.
So is it used year-round or just during the winter?
Year-round.
Year-round.
Mulch, the wood chips, all that stuff.
And can we get any money for our old one?
Yes, we would be trading it in.
I'm sure Paul would have loved to. Feeling a little guilty here with some of these items. Okay.
Next budget would be water. This year, the water budget, we're proposing a 1% decrease. The no staffing other than the MPA intern, that's being proposed to be split 1/3 water, 1/3 sewer, 1/3 street. So that's where that's showing up there. As far as capital outlay, there's really not a lot on the list for the capital outlay. As you know, we will have a lot of capital once we make a decision on our water. We'll have a lot of water main projects in that. But we've got the automatic tank mixer at the Stearns Road ground storage tank. What this is we've been finding that inside the tank itself, there's not a good mixture going on, so the water, there's settlement of basically iron that settles out in the tank. We want to be able to keep that tank fresh throughout. So this is just a mixer that keeps that water circulating, and when we're drawing from it, we're drawing from the entire thing.
Can't we hire 2 people at $5 an hour?
We got a new roof planned for the Stearns Road control building. It's 21 years old, in need of replacement. 12-inch valve at Oneida Tower. There's a couple of things here. We had a water main break, and we could not isolate the tower, so that's something we want to make sure that we have in the future. And we're actually scheduling to paint that tower this fall, so that by inserting this valve will allow us to isolate. 1.5-inch dewatering pump. These are used during a water main break to dewater the pit. Portable handheld meter readers. The 2 that we have right now, we've been having issues with it. We need to get those replaced. 4 additional permanent water sampling stations. One of the things that the EPA has told us, we've been using like different houses and stuff, outside spigots to take the samples. That they're recommending against because it's a lot easier to have a contaminated sample. So we're proposing to put actual sampling station at our different, it'll be on village property at lift stations or well sites. It'll allow us to have a contained area with a tap coming off of the main without having a risk of having a contaminated sample.
And we would still use those if we went, say, with no wells?
Yes, no matter what, we still have to sample.
Okay.
Yeah. The 2 locators, that allows us to locate the mains. And then we've got leak detection equipment proposed. Right now we hire a company to do that for us. This will allow us to do our own leak detecting, saving that cost and allowing us to actually be more proactive out looking for different areas where we might have to see the water coming up to surface, but we would be able to start listening and seeing where leaks are throughout town. As far as professional development, everything is the same. The out-of-state conference has been cut. And then professional association, the only change there is adding our supervisor to the American Public Works Association. Are there any questions on water?
Number 1, the automatic tank mixer. If we're going to a different water source, would we absolutely need that? Is that something we can wait?
Yes, we can.
Because if we're going to go to a softened water,
It's going to be 5 to 10 years, I think, was the plan in order to make that transition. So it'd be something we'd be dealing with for 5 to 10 years. So, but yes, it can be cut. We've been like that. So.
okay. That's all I had.
Anything else? We'll go to sewer. The sewer budget, we are proposing a decrease of 3% from last year. As far as staffing, we currently have a vacancy in the maintenance position, and we propose to keep that vacant. It includes the NPA intern to 1/3. Capital outlay, we've got an inline grinder for the sludge dewatering. This will help us get a more consistent sludge to the centrifuge, which will allow us to get a drier cake. Right now, we've had some issues where different debris gets in the way. It kind of interferes with the operation of it, and this will allow us to get a more consistent liquid basically going to the centrifuge to allow us to dry it out as much as possible. We've got the sewer truck, cleaning truck, Vector truck has been cut. We have proposed sanitary sewer televising equipment. We currently hire an outfit to do that for us. We're proposing to buy our own so that we can do our own and continue that program going on. If you remember in the capital program, we're proposing to basically have a continual program where we're televising lines, finding where those cracks and collapsed pipes are so that we can go in and have those sections fixed. This will allow us to continue that program with our own guys rather than hiring a contractor to come in and televise.
Dan, do you know how much we pay when we get the televising done?
I want to say when we did our last sewer system evaluation, we paid about $40,000 for the area north of the tracks, east of Oak, a section in there.
And do we do this every year, or is this?
This is something that we would hope to do every year. We would, a portion of town every year, so that every year you're televising a section, every year you're fixing a section, and you just keep going through town.
But what I guess I'm saying is that, yeah, you're doing a section, each section is $40,000, and you're doing a section each year for $40,000?
That's, if we did that same amount, that's pretty much what we would be spending.
And so I think these are great ideas where you're buying some equipment that you can do, and we can save an enormous amount of money by having this ourselves, just like the last, what did you just mention? Was
leak detection equipment?
Yeah, leak detection equipment. I think that's a great idea, too.
And we had identified that huge leak we had out in our parking lot where we had to dig up half the parking lot last summer. That was through our ongoing televising and finding it proactively.
Yeah, one of the things with the leak detection on water main breaks, once if we can't find it, then we have to call the outfit. You have to wait for them. If we have the equipment in our shop, we can go out there and start finding it right away. So it'll help that whole process as well.
It's a great idea.
Dan, is there any ongoing expenses to owning that equipment, like storage?
Of course, there's going to be. You're going to have it maintained.
Is it like every other computer where you have to have upgrade every year, and it's going to be $20,000 a year?
No, there's not an upgrade like that every year, but there will be regular maintenance. You have to get it cleaned. I mean, it's not in a good environment, so it's going to require maintenance, but it's. I think in the long run, it will pay for itself.
And we can work out a deal for a couple of years of cleaning or something with this company. That's a lot of money to spend for a television camera.
How long does something like that last? Staff to use that, or do they have to go outside?
No, our staff will learn how to do it. We've had different companies come out and they've sampled it, and so they've already been playing around with it a little bit, and they'll get trained. Whatever system we end up going with, they would have a full training along with it.
How long does the camera system last?
Hopefully we can get 7 to 10 years out of it.
I'm sure it comes with a warranty if you're spending that kind of money.
I don't think it's got a warranty that long. It's usually a 1-year warranty.
1 year?
Yeah.
And we'll get to watch the videos, hopefully, of the...
Well, we can give you all kinds of videos. You might not want to watch them, but...
Is this extra if they offer 2-year? Is this a vehicle unto itself, or it attaches to a unit that we've already got, or it's a tow behind, or...
No, this will just go in one of... What we're going to probably use is a trailer that we already have. And I mean, it's not very big. It's got its kind of own self-contained thing, so we can put it in the back of a van, put it in, what we're trying to do is sort out a trailer and be able to put it into a trailer and be able to bring it out to the site.
You'd think for $85,000 you could ride it around, though.
Like a Segway.
We've got 3 chemical storage tanks. These have deteriorated. They sit outside. They're plastic tanks, basically, and the sun has gotten to the point where they're getting brittle. We want to get them replaced. And then we've got aerobic digester dewatering tubes. Those were years ago, those were disconnected. They were having issues with them. And so now what the guys have been doing is basically using a trash pump to be able to dewater these. You have to dewater the liquid from the sludge. And using a trash pump is a way to get that done, but it's very labor intensive. You're dragging hoses all over the place, and in the middle of the winter is not ideal. So we're proposing to try to get these telescoping valves back operating, so all they have to do is raise and lower a tube. This will replace, this basically replaces, I think, 3 or 4 of those tubes. There's 5 tanks out there, so there'll be more of these. If this works, and we believe it will, we'll probably have more of those in future years. As far as professional development, everything is the same except for that Illinois Public Services Institute, which again, we've applied for a scholarship for that individual as well. And I think that's it. Are there any other questions?
What's the government affairs seminar on page 36?
What this is it's part of our sewer, like wastewater treatment plant, in that they have a seminar every year, kind of gives you the update on EPA regulations that are coming our way, that type of, it keeps us up to date on that type of stuff. So we try to send someone there to just stay up to date on all that stuff.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
No, I noticed on page 4, under chemical supplies, there's the statement, decrease use of odor control and microbes.
I'm sorry, what page was it?
42, did I?
40, you said 4.
Oh, I'm sorry, 42. Smack dab in the middle of the page.
Decreased use of odor control. What that is, the odor control is, if we have odor problems down at the wastewater treatment plant, we'll put fresheners out there. We've knocked on wood, the plant's been running well, and we haven't had to use that as much, so we feel comfortable being able to decrease. We haven't been using the budget, so we're comfortable lowering it.
So we don't have to worry about getting complaints about the stinkies.
We still have money in the budget just in case, but
Okay.
we haven't had to use as much as we had in the budget.
We're going to have the nicest smelling poop plant around.
After we put those covers on it, it really did.
It really helped.
It really helped.
Unless you're inside the cover.
Pardon?
Unless you're inside the cover.
Well, that's right.
All right.
Got off light for your first time.
Spending a lot of money, though.
Good evening. The Community Development Department budget overall was decreased by 8%. And our big request in the position title is a new GIS technician to assist the current GIS specialist with the volume and demand of collecting, inputting data, and producing maps for all the departments within the village, in addition to any work that we do for other taxing districts that they asked for requests. In exchange for that, we are reducing our code enforcement staff by one person, so we will be down to 2 code officers due to retirement of one and an upcoming retirement of the second one. But don't worry, we're hiring a younger guy that will work faster. So that's what we're doing with personnel, so our personnel will stay the same. We are in capital budget requesting a replacement code enforcement vehicle. One is broken down and sitting out in Public Works storage area. We may decide not to do that because the truck that we have is working fine. We had some work done on that. It's just a little rusty, but we're going to look at fixing that rust spot on it. We're looking for magnetic light bars for the vehicles. They're just kind of safety light bars. We think we can get 3 we're ballparking it at $1,300. The LED beacons are probably a little cheaper, so we may go with that. It's just when the code officers are out in the field, sometimes they're in the middle of the street or in remote areas. And then we're hoping to replace our air photo that's out in the hallway here. We haven't replaced that since 2007. There's been a lot of growth in the village, and that's an update to that. And we'd replace that one that's in the hall there, and the old one then goes usually to Public Works so that we don't throw it out, we keep using it.
We have 2 of them, if you'll recall. We have one upstairs right outside Jim's office and one here, and people look at it all the time, and it's so old that they can't find generally what they're looking for. So we thought it was time to get an updated version.
Well, what specifically do we use it for?
Identifying things, don't you?
Yeah, this is kind of a centerpiece in the village hall. People look at it all the time. They look for their house. They look for businesses. The one upstairs we use with developers a lot. But, it's a nice visual to have.
There is a business purpose to this. It's not just aesthetics.
Yes, we use it with developers, yeah. And they usually give us some smaller ones that we can use individually, so we can hand them out to our staff.
I think I've been with developers that have looked at that countless times, just saying, okay, well, you're here, and what's over here, and what is this road, and looking at different areas in the village.
Seems like a useful tool. Does the $15,000 include both downstairs and upstairs here?
It includes the whole package, and they usually give us one big one and the smaller one that's upstairs, and then a number of individual reduced copy ones. So it's a whole package of air photos, but it's all the same date and everything at the same time.
Do we get them in electronic format?
We don't get an electronic format. I didn't ask them that. This is the hard copy. They actually go and do a flight,
right.
And then we use the DuPage County air photos, and we use Google Maps a lot too for our stuff. But I certainly will ask them. I'm sure they can do it that way.
I wasn't proposing that. I was just questioning whether or not.
It may cost more. I don't know.
I'm sure it would. But if we have Google Maps, why would we pay for it?
Yeah, the Google Map is what we use for our air photo base, but we can use, this is more for the visual in the hallway.
When was the last Google Map done? Why can't we just enlarge that?
We don't. That's copyrighted.
Well, you pay for it.
We use DuPage County's air photos.
I don't know that the resolution would be sufficient for a map quite that size.
Just curious, Jim, the GIS department can't do some sort of a street map of Bartlett that would pretty much give the same criteria without it being an aerial view?
Not at that scale and in that detail. That's actually a photo mosaic. That is, they fly the village in different patterns. They come back and forth, and they do a photo mosaic, a composite, and it's ground truth, so that you have the scale that Eric's mentioning. If you blow up a Google map to that level, you'll never get, the resolution will not be proper, and you probably you can't maintain the scale that large.
It's pretty deep.
Okay. Whatever that means.
Yeah.
What's that?
Can we get a heads up when they're coming by so we can have everybody outside waving?
They'll tell us when they're flying it.
All right, let's get a bunch of people downtown, a bunch of people on 59, cars everywhere.
Do a thing and have everyone go to the soccer
Everybody invite
fields.
your relatives into Bartlett for the day.
Right.
Have everyone go to the soccer field at a certain time.
We do each get a wallet size, though, right?
It's not quite that small, but the smallest is 9 by 9. That's
Okay.
the smallest print that they give us. The professional development, or the detail is basically the same with the, obviously the out-of-state travel, as mentioned before, is removed. So it'll just be local seminars, and then for the planning staff, the code enforcement, and we do send our commissioners if they want to go. If there's something available for them, they go to that. And then the training for the GIS person is paid out of central services, and then some of the IEDC training is paid for out of the TIF fund. This one in Indianapolis has been switched to Chicago, so it's a local venue for Tony to maintain his economic development certification.
Did you just line item those because they're not getting paid out of our budget? Is that why? You're still going to those, right?
We still go to the air trade shows and those, yes. We still go to those, yes. The professional association details, pretty similar. Everything's the same. The TIF Association, the AICP for all the professional planners, the county code enforcement, development council, shopping center, the TIF Association, and the GIS is all the same. As you can see, the budget is reduced by 8%. Just one of the line items that has gone up, you'll probably notice, is the rebates. That is our last remaining rebate for the Welsh Brothers, and they are selling a lot more concrete products, so therefore the rebate increases, but they will pay us, obviously, more of that sales tax. And then that one should expire next year.
It's our last year.
Right. And then that's pretty much it, so if there's any questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
If we were going to buy a code enforcement vehicle, what were you looking to replace it with? Another truck?
You know, we kind of have trended towards the electric vehicles the last time. The truck's convenient, especially around this time, pick up all those political signs that are left. So that's one of the reasons that we would like to keep
You only
the
had
truck.
half of them this time. There's only
We got
half.
a basket of them. We didn't have any arrays.
At what stage does the rust on the code enforcement vehicle get to the point where it's a code violation?
When Earl Scheib can't paint it anymore.
Yeah, when we took it in, and he wanted, we thought he was only going to charge us $800, but then when we really looked at it, it blossomed. So we're going to get another estimate on that. It was parked in a parking spot, and we never did find out who did it. And it was a ding, and then it eventually rusted after a while. So.
I'd charge the police for that then.
Yeah, it was just in a remote parking lot, so.
Jim, on the emergency board up at vacant houses, just to clarify, we do try to recover that from the mortgage holder or whomever we can.
That's usually, yes, we do. In fact, we're going to use that fund probably next week for a eviction. Okay. So we do try to recover it.
And I know we're very active and staying on top of those things.
Yeah, we still have the foreclosure team active.
Foreclosure program, good.
Yeah.
And I think the note holder is somewhat responsible for that now too, right?
Usually what we find is that when we get the bank to take over it, they hire a management company, and then the management company, we've been pretty lucky to work with them, and they usually pay it. And whether the bank reimburses them or it's in their fee, that's how we usually find it. When it's not done, it's usually there's something that's fallen through the cracks on whether through the eviction, through the foreclosure, through the sheriff's deed, the lack of recording it, and sometimes it's just finding the right person at the bank who has it in their portfolio.
What do we charge on per home? Is it a flat rate when
for board up.
Yeah.
It depends on what needs to be done. Sometimes you can get by, like the one time we used it, it was in an emergency situation, so the fire department had to break in through the, what are they, I don't know what those windows are, the little side windows on their nice frosted decorative windows, instead of going through the front door. So that was a small board up because the window was small, but it was a big expense to repair that. And then sometimes if you can jimmy the lock, we try to board, and if you have to board up the big, like sliding glass door, it can be more expensive. So it all depends on how much we feel is necessary. We don't board up every opening. We just try to board up the main ones where we think that's where the intrusion is.
Thank you.
Okay.
Administration.
The Administration Department proposed budget's down 6% from last year. Overall, service levels and programs have no changes. There's no personnel or capital equipment requests in our proposal. Last February, the board discussed civic group contributions and the funding
This is
process.
a recording. Please hang up and try your call again. If you need assistance, dial the...
Teal, you okay?
She's in the shop.
We need a new phone system under administration.
Maybe.
She's still on.
I'll just keep going.
Are we the only village left that still has the actual lines?
The ordinance that you approved in February goes into effect in June 1st of this year. So for the budget proposal, we left all the contributions to civic groups at the same level that it was the previous budget year. We did have a few requests already come in. Heritage Days requests $3,400. That's the same request that they asked for last year. And Arts and Bartlett also requested $6,000. That's the same amount that we have funded them in previous years. $3,000 of that goes to the Arts Fair specifically. We also received notice from the DuPage Senior Citizen Council that they would be looking for $5,000 from us. That's down from the $12,000 that we have funded in previous years. That's not reflected in the budget because that came in just recently. And we did have a request from the Friends of the Bartlett Library asking for $500 for their sponsorship of their summer concert series.
And that's new.
And that's new, so it's not in the budget
Right.
at all. And moving on, per the board's direction, there's no out-of-state travel for professional development, and all professional association has stayed the same. And if you have any specific questions, we can move on to that.
Paul, let me ask you, DuPage Mayor's and Managers Building Loan, and that's on page 11.
Mm-hmm.
We're paying $4,290 a year for that. What is that?
For the DuPage Mayor and Managers, that's our conference dues.
No, that's a building loan.
The
That was
building loan.
the building loan.
Okay,
That was
that's
the
the building
agreement that
loan.
we had. It's several years old, and actually several years forward when DuPage Mayor and Managers moved to build a new building. Several communities basically hold the mortgage on that, and they pay us
We
back.
fronted the money, and they pay us back every year.
Okay. But speaking of our dues,
Yeah.
DuPage Mayors and Managers in the Northwest Municipal Conference, between those two organizations, we have $23,000 and $22,000 respectively. I'd like us to take a close look. I know we talked about this last year. I'd like us to take a close look at which one of those organizations we really do utilize and which one we don't, and how we utilize them. DuPage Mayors and Managers, which I've been active in, really disappointed me this year, the last year and a half or so. And I want to make sure that we're evaluating and getting our dollars worth there, because that's a lot of money, and I want to make sure that the taxpayers are getting the best bang for their buck. So,
What we try to look at, and you're right, we get different services from them, but both of those organizations have state and federal road money that they funnel through. This year, as the board directed us to try to get more FAU routes approved from DuPage Mayor's Manager, and we did that. In fact, we have a fairly lengthy, from Struckman over to, how does that work, Dan? It's a fairly long, complex FAU that we have had approved. And, of course, what that means is that makes us eligible for LAP funds and all kinds of funds in the future that they will distribute. So
yeah,
there's always that.
And I get that, and I participated in that Struckman
right.
thing. But what I'd like to see is what are we getting through which organization.
We certainly can do that.
Because otherwise we're having the same conversation we had last year.
That's
but now
right.
I think it may be a little bit more specific.
Yeah. Just, Trustee Ranke, I can share with you when we first started 2 years ago, I saw these numbers and I about collapsed, and I went through pretty heavy due diligence as to what these organizations do. Look at all of them. I mean, there's not just those, there's tons of them. And these two organizations don't overlap a lot, and unfortunately, Hanover Park has went to bat, we've went to bat, saying there's got to be a way that we can have some kind of a compromise here. Their fees are based on whatever percentage of your residents are living in DuPage. I think it's definitely worth more due diligence to see what we have going on with those two organizations, because I've been more involved in DuPage Mayors Managers than NMC, Northwest Municipal Conference. And I think they're getting some heat from other organizations, too, trying to see if they can reduce their cost. Because, I mean, if we could just pair specifically, Northwest Municipal Conference, because of our involvement in that organization, provided us with $180,000 in extra money last year.
Right.
Then we can all say, oh, okay, gladly do that, but the same kind of thing that I was trying to figure out before, and you know this, you guys tried to do that as well, so if we can try to look at it.
And with Northwest, we have an application as soon as their process opens for the intersection of 59 and West Bartlett Road, putting in some substantial improvement, turn lanes that IDOT has heretofore said they won't put in, that would make that pretty eligible for some development. So, that really is the big ticket item with both of those groups, is if you get the road money, it's going to pay for those memberships for a long time. You can't get the road money without your memberships. But setting that aside, we'll look at the other details.
Thank you.
Voting is now over.
Yeah. That conclude our...
Okay. I usually do the last section under administration, which is our where is it? Professional services. I can do that now, or we can wait until we get into the committee format.
Let's just do it now and get it over with.
Okay.
Okay. The first item is the actuarial consultant. As you know, we do an actuarial consultant consultation on our police pension every year with Goldsmith and Associates, and we split that cost with the police pension. We have also professional planners. This year, that amount represents what our local share for the RTA planning grant, and that's all that's in there. The next item under professional services is legal services. That encompaces our traffic court.
I'm sorry, Valerie, where is this?
It's right the next page behind administration.
Page 15.
Page 14 and 15.
It says line item justification on top.
No, we don't have it.
Mine ends at 13.
Mine too.
Ours ends at 13.
Under administration?
Then why don't you let us get that now, and we'll move along and have it ready under the committee?
Sounds like a great plan.
Or is this-
It was added later, yeah.
I have a question.
I don't have it either.
Yeah, they were sent out.
Oh.
You know what, it was put in the, it looks like it was put in the
Yeah, it came
front
across
of the
as an
binder.
insert.
Oh,
Yeah.
very front.
Okay, let's do it.
No, it was sent out at a later date.
Okay. Well, I have one I can share.
I have the two.
I'll share with Trustee Ranky and
You have an
the
extra?
Hammer. We can all kind of snuggle up. Sure.
Okay, I'll keep
Let's
going
not-
then. This covers our prosecutor, Brian Mraz's salary, our labor attorney, our lobbyist, and you can see the numbers there affiliated with each one, our TOFI officer, Tom Bastian, who is now our administrative hearing officer as well, and then we have some contingencies for any other legal services that we might have in there. The next item is engineering services, and that is pretty much Burke services that might not be covered under any of our utility funds. And then we have a contingencies for any other issue legally that we may not see coming.
So how are we paying the hearing officer? Because I see the tow fees, $5,000, and then the administrative hearing for $7,200. And to me, I would think if you piggyback those, you shouldn't be paying that amount of money.
Yeah, we just started the hearing in January, and so we put that in there not really knowing what it was going to be. We knew for sure what the tow fee was. But you're right, now we have a couple of months' experience, and we're able to collapse those two, I believe, since he's here at the same time.
Okay. Do we have that number?
No, I do not.
Okay. I mean, I understand that as part of the towing process, you are going to generate some revenue which would offset that number, but I would like to know that bottom line
Yeah,
number.
let me get that and,
Okay.
and get back to you with what that will be.
Okay, thank you.
I'll renew my comment that I've said, I think, I know last year and I think the year before that too. I know I'm told that our lobbyist does a lot for us. I'd really like to see who he is. We pay him $2,000 a month. I've never seen the man or woman in this chamber.
I'm sure if we request him to come, he will come as often as you want him to.
For 24 grand a year, maybe he'd do it on his own if he's listening.
Sure.
Just a thought.
I would echo that. I mean, we see the updates in our emails from Northwest Municipal and DuPage mayors and managers, but I've never seen anything from Mr. Cullen.
And there's times I know we've talked and you said, well, our lobbyist is advised if these things. So maybe that is one of those things where he's doing a lot that we don't kind of.
But I think
That's
it's
below the
reasonable to
surface.
ask him to come and meet with all of you and talk about our strategies.
Maybe even spend 5 minutes on a committee saying, oh, this is what I did for you last year.
Mm-hmm.
It's once every 4 years.
Just a thought. That's all I have.
I have one question. Under the personnel services, there's a pretty large increase there. Do we know what that's for?
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
On the
trustee.
personnel services, we have an increase from the estimate to the proposed for 2015, 2016.
Are we in professional services or administration?
Page 5.
The administration.
Okay,
Sorry.
we'll get back there.
Did we add somebody?
We filled Steve Bosco's position that had been vacant, and we moved Scott into that position. It had been vacant since 13. Scott has taken that position.
But we didn't fill Scott's, so we still have one open.
So Scott's doing 2 jobs. He's all right.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, right.
I'm sure we all know that. And could I get those pages that we're missing for 14, 15? Thank you. You missing them? You don't know.
Then we'll move to the regular village board agenda and then return after.
Yes, the remaining department is golf, and they're here to make the presentation at your convenience.
Go on to that committee, the committee of the whole in the second portion. That being said, entertain a motion to adjourn the committee.
Second.
Meeting. Moved by Trustee Shipman, seconded by Trustee Martin. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Trustee Ahrens?
Yes.
Cameron?
Yes.
Carbonaro?
Yes.
Martin?
Yes.
Ranky?
Yes.
Shipman?
Yes.
Welcome to the Village of Bartlett Committee of the Whole meeting for April 7th, 2015. I call this meeting to order and ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Trustee Ahrens?
Here.
Cameron?
Here?
Carbonaro?
Here.
Martin?
Here.
Ranky?
Here.
Shipman?
Here.
President Wallace?
Here. And I believe that we will, I would make a suggestion, if we can do this, to flip these. And we'll start with the planning and zoning to get any comments that we might have here. So that way we have, then we have the remainder of the meeting to finish up with the budget review. So we will start with Chairman Kammer and the planning and zoning of Route 59 Stearns Road improvements.
Thank you, Mr. President. Well, as we know, it's a continuation of our continuing saga of the different routes at Illinois 59 and Stearns Road, and we have now more revisions, and I think can project those onto the screen and illustrate that a little more in detail for everyone here. Take it away, Jim.
Thank you, Trustee Kammerer. I'll give you an overview of where we have been on this project and where we are today, and we do have available our traffic consultant, Brent Kelter, our Public Works Director, Dan Dinges, and our Police Chief to fill in some of the information that you had requested last time, which is the traffic data and the information on the cost of the Norwood Lane signal. It is contained in your memo, but I'll let them answer those questions. As you recall, the original design for the project showed the dual left turn lanes, the barrier median, and this is on the east leg again of Stearns and 59, the new Walgreens right here, the daycare center, Braintree Lane. This caused some concern by some of the property owners and the Brewster Creek Brewster Creek Shopping Center tenants and owner. The mayor wrote a letter asking IDOT and DuPage County, which you all saw, to reconsider the configuration of the access on the Stearns Road. The mayor had originally asked for turn lane to allow the left turn ingress and egress out of the shopping center across the new configuration. When IDOT and DuPage County Highway engineers designed it, they didn't just do the left turn lane out accommodation. They went and reconfigured the intersection turn lanes, and they put a full eastbound lane to allow you to turn north into the shopping center and the daycare center. They removed the dual left turn lanes and went down to one left turn lane. That caused some consternation both on our traffic, from our traffic consultant, the chief, about the turning, coming across the intersection at a high rate of speed, getting in this lane, and in about 175, 180 feet turning into the shopping center, even though it was a turn lane. There was a concern at the last time we talked about it, expressed by some of the trustees about that movement. When the shopping center has a ingress and egress on the north up on 59 into the Walgreens, and then further north in the original entrance. We went back to IDOT and DuPage County and back to the original comments that were in the mayor's letter, which reflected and the ingress and egress, but basically the egress from the shopping center to allow the left turn lane out to maintain that. Dan and our traffic consultant worked with the county, and what this is, although it's hard to read, but this is this median will basically be a barrier from the intersection eastward to about where the Walgreens property is at. Then it will be a striped median, And then the only turn lane, as you get further away from the intersection, you can turn left into the daycare center, which is far enough away from the intersection, and then continue and also turn left into Braintree.
Could you do a U-turn from there, Jim?
Yes,
Would that
you
be
can
permitted?
still do that U-turn here and there. What the added design feature is, also, the county felt that this existing pork chop that's at the intersection, or at the entrance to the shopping center, is not configured properly, and it would need to be redesigned to prevent this from anybody from going in and doing that left turn movement. It's not a movement that anybody should practice, but with the way the pork chop was, it was easy to do that. They would extend this lip right here so that it would prevent that kind, so it's really truly a right in only. And the left out would still be allowed to come across these new lanes of traffic, go left. The county still will insist on prohibiting that left out during the peak hours, which is the AM and PM peak. This design is where we're at right now. And then just for your information, we still have the Norwood Lane intersection with the traffic signal. Dan has put some cost estimates in there about the traffic signal, and then the necessary improvements of Norwood Lane if you choose to do that. So that's kind of where we're at now. I can show you an air photo, but if you want to see it, of the whole intersection. And that's just, we've put that in there so you can kind of get an idea. We superimpose the new Walgreens site plan on this so you can get an idea of the whole intersection, how it will function. And that's where we are today. Brent is here, Dan is here if you want, and the chief, if you want the information on the accidents and the cost estimates, or answer any questions.
All right. So we're going to open this up, I guess, to the public. I would ask that you keep...
I have a couple questions for the traffic consultant. Good evening. If I recall, you had objections to the revised design plan, so the second one. So we're on our third design. You had concerns about the second. Is that correct?
I was concerned specifically about the left turn in and the loss of the dual left turn storage capacity, going from 2 lanes westbound to just 1 lane.
What are your thoughts on the revised plan dated February 26, 2015?
One of the advantages it has over the previous version, which Jim described as having the left turn lane, that long left turn lane eastbound to serve Brewster Creek Shopping Center, the daycare, and Braintree. So one of the advantages by eliminating that long left turn lane at Brewster Creek is we are able to maintain the dual left turns at westbound to southbound at the intersection. That's important because the projected storage of those 2 lanes from the stop bar on Route 59 going east is roughly 125 or 130 feet with 2 lanes. With a single lane, that storage increases to about 270 feet. So during most of the peak hour and maybe some of the off-peak hour, with a single westbound left turn lane, Brewster Creek is going to be blocked from inbound or outbound traffic just because of the loss of capacity. It also lowers the level of service for that leg of the intersection from E, which is not the greatest but is tolerable, to F, which is not very good, to say the least. So that's the advantage of the latest concept, which has that big channelizing island that would prohibit left turns in. Otherwise, it would still allow the left turns out of Brewster Creek during the off-peak hours.
What would you rate the intersection currently?
In terms of level of service?
Mm-hmm.
It's rated at just slightly below level service D.
D?
D.
So we left it alone, it's doing better than what any of these propose. Is that what you're saying? D's better
No,
than
I'm sorry,
E and
the
F?
overall intersection level service is level D. The east leg of the intersection operates at that roughly level service E level. And that's because the priority timing is given to Route 59, not to the east and west legs of Stearns Road. I would also caution you that because IDOT is treating this as a 3R project, meaning repair, rehab, and resurfacing, even though they're adding lanes and adding, for a significant cost, adding multiple lanes to the intersection, upgrading the signals, their design horizon basically is right now. It's existing traffic. So the more we take away from what they've planned to do, the less capable we are of addressing the traffic needs 5 or 10 or 15 years down the road. And that's concerning to me as a traffic engineer.
Where do you think more people are going to move into west of that intersection, or east, I mean?
In terms of traffic demand increasing?
In terms of housing.
Well, in terms of traffic demand, most of the demand is going to occur on Route 59.
Yeah.
And because Route 59 is
The thing that I have an issue with is when people bring up increased traffic congestion in a particular intersection, don't you have to look at the surrounding area and say, east of that intersection, is there any building where people could increase the population where it would increase the traffic?
That's part of the process. That process did not occur on this particular project because of the way it was classified by IDOT. So there was no looking ahead. I understand your point, and I think I would agree with you that most of the traffic increase through the intersection is going to be on Route 59. But there's only so much green time available to serve all the traffic moving through the intersection. And because Route 59 is a priority route, it's a strategic regional arterial, it's going to get the brunt of, or the majority of green time in terms of intersection operation. So even if things stay the same on Stearns Road, but traffic increases on Route 59 over the next 5 or 10 years, which I would certainly expect, conditions are going to worsen on Stearns Road. And my concern is that with a single westbound left turn lane, they're going to be much worse than they would be with the dual left turn lanes that IDOT has originally proposed.
Understood.
What are your thoughts on the left into the daycare center parking lot?
Well, as Jim mentioned, we are further away from the intersection. The daycare circulation is one way. You enter from Stearns and you exit onto the Brewster Creek access drive. You can't enter the daycare from Brewster Creek. So the option that Walgreens and some of the other stores have in terms of their customers entering from Route 59 does not exist for the daycare because of the one-way flow through that facility. And that's why under either of the most recent two scenarios that modify the original dual left turn lane scenario that IDOT came up with, there would be a left turn lane serving the daycare center.
Do you have any safety concerns with that?
There's a risk that you might get some shopping center traffic turning left and entering the shopping center if they can't make a left turn directly into the center at Brewster Creek. My own opinion is that the access that exists to the Brewster Creek Shopping Center on Route 59, the right in, right out, just north of Walgreens, and full access further north, and even for that matter Norwood at the extreme north, is sufficient to handle the demand that would enter otherwise with a left turn from Stearns into Brewster Creek. But that is something to be thinking of. My guess would be, someone asked the question earlier, is a U-turn legal on that most recent design from that left turn lane that would be striped at the daycare center? Could you make a U-turn there? The answer is legally yes. You could make a left turn, a U-turn there, or you could make a U-turn as originally planned at Braintree with the barrier median if you wanted to go east and then come back west, enter Brewster Creek or the daycare center at that point.
So are you recommending the most recent plan then?
Well, I think I've made my position clear from the very beginning on this at every public meeting that I've attended, and that is that I favor the original IDOT proposal. The advantage that I see in the most recent concept is that we're able to maintain the dual left turn lanes westbound. And what that means is less cost to the village if you ever have to go back to the original concept and close off by extending a barrier median across Brewster Creek, and for that matter the daycare, which was the original plan. It also means if we're going to allow left turns out of Brewster Creek, there's going to be more room and more times during the day, during the off-peak hours, where that left turn out is available because you're going to have 2 lanes to store westbound left turn traffic instead of a single lane. So as I see it, there is an advantage to that most recent concept that in that regard that didn't exist with the second concept that you discussed at your last committee of the whole meeting.
Thank you.
Any other questions by the board? Or
I would just make the comment that I think we get into a situation where I would consider, I guess, DuPage County and IDOT are traffic. They're people that they have hired are traffic professionals. I thought the prior one that we had to this was the approved one that we were looking at, right? And then all of a sudden, we as a village, did we second guess those particular?
Yes, that's the size of it. This is the one that they came back to us with after the letter that was written to maintain this exit out of the shopping center across there. They didn't feel that they actually went a little further than just maintaining the exit. There was some concern at our last meeting, and then that's where they went with this design.
Jim, as we look at this, though, the configuration coming out of Brewster Creek, there's the 2 black arrows there on the screen. Technically, you really wouldn't be able to cut across. Are you saying we still would be able to just cut across that striped area there? They still could make the. All right.
Yeah, the barrier. It's hard to see with this, but the barrier ends right about there, and there will be a sign there saying no left turn, so you can cut right through that striped area.
But only at certain times.
Right.
Only the county's insisting on the only in the non-peak hours.
Okay. There's no other questions by the.
A couple quick things, yeah. I think it's important for the record here, although they're kind of second cousins, that we briefly, or at least Jim, if you'd at least give us the numbers on this Norwood signal so we know what we're talking about.
I'm going to defer to Dan since he put it together.
Okay. Or Dan, if you would, please. I think it's important that for the members or for the residents that are here that maybe don't have the benefit of some of these documents, that we get on the record what kind of money we're talking about to install a signal at that intersection.
Right, we talked to IDOT, and I also worked with Brent on finding out what the cost would be to signalize 59 in Norwood. The signal cost alone is in that $350,000 range, but at the same time, we know that we have issues on Norwood with the whole Dunkin' Donuts drive-through and that, and then we also talked about doing work at the eastern end of Norwood, going towards Braintree to restrict eastbound traffic. So we added $150,000 of work on Norwood to help facilitate the signal at 59 in Norwood, just to improve that road section.
So if I'm understanding your memorandum correct here, IDOT wouldn't necessarily oppose this, but as far as they're concerned, it's up to us. They want nothing to do with it.
That'd be correct. At this point, that's what they've told us.
And that would be, based on your professional experience, roughly $500,000.
in that ballpark.
It's a pretty big ballpark.
Are we going to do a cutout on one of those berms by Dunkin' Donuts to help traffic? Or what?
Well, there's a couple things we've actually looked at. Putting a right in, right out north of Norwood onto 59 is one idea that we're looking at. That would help some of the traffic congestion that happens at that entrance. And then trying to reconfigure or widen out the driveway that heads north off of Norwood into that area, just to allow, right now the cars back up onto Norwood, so we're trying to alleviate that at the same time. Because once you put a signal in there, you got to be able to manage all the traffic.
Yeah.
How did we get from 350 to 500,000?
Because 350 is just a signal work, then you got the road work on Norwood.
Okay.
And those are rough numbers. We haven't gone. I mean, we wanted these. This is the ballpark area. If we were told to pursue that, then we would get more detailed. But
I
at
was
this
also
point,
under the impression IDOT offered to cover the cost of the electronics to synchronize the two lights.
there's some discussion as far as interconnecting down to 59 or Stearns and 59. Yes, they talked about that.
Thank you.
I guess in the same vein, too, the police department did quite a bit of research on our crashes, and I asked for that, so I'm going to ask the chief about it quickly to comment on it. Stearns and 59 is historically in that top tier of crash locations for our community.
It's usually number one.
Usually number one. And according to your memorandum here, in the 3 years of research that you did, there were 172 traffic crashes at that location?
That's correct.
And 20 of those, or a little better than 10%, were related to traffic movements into or out of Brewster Creek?
That's exactly right. Yeah.
And 14 of those 20 were about 14% or something, no, it's not right, about 70%, were vehicles turning left out of the shopping center on eastbound Stearns, is that correct?
That's correct.
Thank you.
Were any of those fatalities?
I'm sorry?
Any fatalities, Chief?
There were some serious injury ones in there. I don't think in the last 3 years. I'd have to double check before I really stand on that. But consistently, it's a number one for our physical injury accidents and property damage. Now, let me be specific about that. I don't want to create any confusion in the room. I'm talking about the intersection proper, right in the middle of the intersection of Stearns and 59. We get quite a few physical injury accidents. At the actual entrance, about 100 and so feet east of the intersection into the access to Brewster Creek, not so many physical injury accidents. If we do, those are more bumps and bruises. It's the intersection itself, right in the middle of Stearns and 59, that I've always been most concerned of.
Well, that's higher speed.
Higher speed, it's a lot of movements, it's a lot of confusion, it's a lot of trucks, it's a lot of trucks versus minivans full of families, and we've seen it for the whole 30 years I've been here. So the dual lefts has always been the answer to the police department.
If we do the dual lefts, are we going to have the white lines that everyone stays in their lane while they're turning, going across 59? I mean that seems to help.
They usually put those in on the striping pattern on the street.
Okay, that might. Next thing you know, the person's in the lane they're not supposed to be in.
That's all the questions I had. Thank you, Chairman.
Any other questions?
On that right there, Jim, is it going to be a gradual, or is it just going to start perpendicular for the first turn into the Brewster Creek? Because you have...
All right. In here?
The first turn that's in red, lower, right there.
This is a tapered pavement marking.
Right.
From the barrier
okay, they want to do the U-turn right there.
Wanted to do the U-turn right here?
Is that going to be gradual, or is it just going to usually...
Quick as you can make it is what I'd guess.
No.
Once you get in that, you've got a lot of room to turn. This will be a full width lane at this point.
Okay, see the top part, how that's gradual?
Here?
Yeah.
That's just the striping to prevent you from, this defines the left turn into where you're at about the daycare center, and this is again just the striping to keep you from wandering into the oncoming traffic.
Okay.
And it's just striping on the street. But your U-turn would be either opportunity to be right here, or when you get to Braintree, past the stripe median. You're not really supposed to cross that with a U-turn.
Okay. Now, we're going to open it up to the public for some short comments. Please keep it to 2 to 3 minutes like we do in our regular meeting, and state your name and your address. And
Dennis Cortese, 707 Fairview Lane. I'm also one of the general partners of the Brewster Creek Shopping Center. I was also one of the group that worked on the compromise and plan with DuPage County and IDOT. I was shocked to hear that Bartlett had went back without telling us to ask for further changes, and I just found out that yesterday. This gentleman complimented both the residents and Brewster Creek for working out the Walgreens issues. The compromise that we worked out was the best plan for this site. And to get IDOT and DuPage County and the residents and the shopping center and the commercial properties and to agree on something is very difficult. I can tell you, I feel there's virtually unanimous support among all the residents and all the shopping center, the commercial users for the compromise plan, and letters have been sent in. Just to point out, we all endorsed and pushed Walgreens into our community, which we really wanted and needed within the last year. And with this plan, you now enter off of 59. You're entering behind the garbage area and behind the building and circling around to get from Route 59 to the front of the Walgreens store. I mean, I think there's a certain amount of fair play and that should be considered when you're dealing with a company like Walgreens. I mean, they should be able to rely on us to hold good for where we stood on those issues. The numbers the police chief threw over the first numbers I've heard. We've had 24 years of that entrance on Stearns Road, and you heard the road 20 incidents over 3 years, and they were the minor crashes. So I thought DuPage County thought that we were not only taking a situation that was okay, but making it safer. Well, you could always build a wall and keep everybody out, but what was making it safer. So we had a plan that everybody was agreeing to. Why we went back, why Bartlett went back, is I don't understand it under any circumstances. A turn lane into at the kindergarten next to us. I mean, to think those people aren't going to be turning right back out into our drive lane, and I mean, this is going to be like a permanent traffic stop. And the residents who've been struggling for a long time to come up with a plan that would lower the traffic count. I mean, this thing, what we're talking about on this plan, would tremendously increase the traffic count, because if you go straight east on Stearns Road and you realize all of a sudden you can't make a left, where's the first place you're going to make a turn? And that's the place we're trying to lower traffic counts. So the plan that was approved by DuPage County, the plan that was approved by IDOT, the plan that will be endorsed by all the commercial users in our area, and I think the plan that will be endorsed by the residential neighborhood is the compromise plan that was put up and put in front of everybody else. If there was any further planning, we'd like to be involved and not hear about it the day before it appears on a board. Thank you.
thank you.
Richard Lewis, 868 Braintree. And just to echo an email that I sent, I think yesterday, it's about a year and a half ago that the residents of the Braintree Norwood area stood in front of the board and said we didn't think the new Walgreens was a good idea, but we said if the village was truly willing to work in in concrete ways to reduce or eliminate traffic in our neighborhood, we were okay with the Walgreens approval. Many of the trustees commented that the sentiment of the residents was well appreciated and committed to working with us to solve this traffic problem. Now's the time, I believe, to follow up on that commitment. It's abundantly clear that really at this point, any of these plans that have come into play, including the most recent plan that's up here today, will in fact increase traffic on Braintree and Norwood. The new plan, for instance, with no turn out of there on peak hours, really allows the people that are visiting the mall area there no way outside of cutting down through our neighborhood. Without a traffic light at Norwood and 59, that's really their only option. So again, all these solutions seem to be tied to adding the traffic light at Norwood and 59. Certainly is a very, very expensive proposition. I do question a little bit the additional expense beyond the traffic light, but nonetheless would defer to the experts on that. However, if in fact that it is expensive is something that I think, much like the improvements at the golf course, you got to make plans for the long term. And right now, a short-term plan that doesn't include this traffic light only leads to increased problems in the future. There will be increased traffic at this whole area. As soon as there's development on the north side of the Oil Masters, increased traffic. As soon as a new tenant moves into the old Walgreens facility, increased traffic. Nothing, it decreases the traffic through this area. And certainly, I think Dennis is correct in the new plan that's being proposed. If, in fact, Norwood was not closed to that through traffic, people will come down to Braintree and, in fact, cut through our neighborhood just to get back around and come full circle to get into that shopping center, which does occur today frequently. So, again, we think this is an important part of this plan. It seems to be kind of secondary. I think second cousin was maybe the term used, but this is very, very important to the overall traffic in the neighborhood, including completely closing Norwood, not just the one way. I would help coordinate an effort amongst the neighbors to help pressure IDOT and maybe state politicians, and we were introduced to one today, to try to figure out ways to help with that funding, if that would help. As well as perhaps finding some fundraising types of campaigns to help pay for the closing of Norwood. And I don't know how exactly that'd work, but we could certainly try to do that. Thank you.
Any other comments? Okay, if not, any other comments by the board? I think
there's a lot of work to do on this.
Certainly. Yes.
I think the last plan is probably, there's give and take in all these. The original plan, we were talking to get cars moving. That's why there was 2 lanes. And then we cut it down to 1 lane for turning only, and you could turn left and right, and we were concerned about traffic accidents. And we've already seen there's a number of traffic accidents, not fatal, fender benders, but I think the best plan is the one on the board right there. And has to go hand in hand with Norwood, though, adding the light. Because otherwise, people are just going to, you can put all the signs up, through traffic, and that's not going to do any good. So if we give them an out and they have to go north to go east, and, I have been to that Walgreens, and I entered from 59. I didn't see any garbage. I did see a truck unloading, but the Walgreens is right here, and it's not too hard to just circle around. I mean, if you know where you're going, And that was the first time I went there, and no problems. So, and once people know they're going, then know they can't cut across going eastbound. Going eastbound on Stearns, they can't cut there anymore. They'll figure it out.
Thank you.
So what specifically do you want from us?
That was going to be my next
The
question.
actual document that will come to you is a letter of intent from the board which commits to paying those items that we have asked for. It's $47,000, and it's for the interconnect and the bike path and the sidewalk. But I think as a part of that, they do want to know which of these options you think is most viable, because they want our participation. If you pick the option that limits the access based on peak hour, they want a commitment that you're going to sign and enforce the peak hour. So I think by default, in addition to the letter of intent, they want you to agree with one of the options or some other combination thereof that has come along.
What's the time frame on this? We don't have a set time frame.
No, I mean, it certainly, they would like it, I think, as soon as possible, but I think as a point of clarification, however, it is IDOT and DuPage that have come up with these different options. We didn't go back to them after that last one and say we want changes, because the board was still deliberating option 1 and option 2 at the time that IDOT and DuPage decided they wanted to come up with option 3. So that's what you have here is 3 different options. And if you would like us to look at some amalgamation of those that maybe has a chance of sending less people into the neighborhood, I guess I think that there ought to be some compromise that can do that but provide the same level of safety. Importantly, though, that we keep the dual lefts throughout the intersection itself, because as the chief will tell you, when you talk about safety, that's the real key to this whole improvement, and that has to be.
Can we put a speed limit sign by the daycare, like 5 or 10 miles an hour, just when you're in that little section? I mean, that's the other thing. If we're going to be feeding people in to the first turn there into Brewster, you don't want them, I got to get to Walgreens. They go 20 miles while someone's walking their little kids, parking there, dropping them off. You don't want any kids hit.
On Stearns.
Yeah, inside the private property.
Oh, on the private property?
Yeah, but, well, may we encourage them to put a sign up there?
I'm sorry, Mayor. Go ahead. I just wanted to make a couple of comments on this. Because first of all, let me say I hear you. I do. And this, in my 4 years, has been one of the more challenging things for me to try and make a decision on. Because I've seen your activity and your interest in what's going on with this, and I commend you for that. I also have, obviously, a passion for the safety of all of our residents, but particularly when it comes to traffic safety, it's something I'm very interested in. And this is one of those things where, gosh, if you could go back 30 years, turn back the clock, and redesign the whole dang intersection, but we can't. And so that's what we get paid the big bucks for. That's a joke, by the way, is to look at these different options and to try to decide, well, which one works the best. And sometimes that's a very utilitarian point of view, where's the most benefit for the most amount of people. And sometimes that's a very targeted point of view, or a very targeted type of thing. So this is a difficult one. I will echo some of the things that my fellow trustee Martin said. I think when we talk about this intersection, it's very hard to talk about this intersection and not talk about the intersection at Norwood Lane. I think, although I called them cousins, I think they're kissing cousins, and they kind of have to be a part of the same package. And I appreciate Dan's work on the kind of rough numbers on, I don't think Trustee Martin and I will clearly obviously see this part of the project, but I would encourage the remaining board members and the staff to work on trying to make that something in the future, because the residents have valid concerns. And I think that traffic light on 59 in Norwood is an important component to whatever we do at this intersection. That being said, I have to also put a lot of weight into what our experts say. And our experts are the chief of police and our traffic engineer and the things that they've told us, and the traffic engineers at IDOT and DOT and the rest of them, and what they've told us about how this intersection should look. So it's a difficult balancing act, folks. It's not easy to make a decision. But again, I will say that I think that whatever this board does, whatever this community does, needs to involve some traffic alleviation for that neighborhood that, in my opinion, involves some type of signalized effort there at Norwood Lane. And of the three versions that are in front of me at this moment, I probably favor this third one the most. And that's all that I have to say on it. Thank you.
I would tend to agree with Trustee Shipman and Martin, and I do believe we have to put a lot of thought into making a decision here. There's a very important part that we're missing here. There are 2 daycare centers there. There's one on Stearns Road who currently has 100 children. That's roughly 100 drivers just for that daycare. The one that's closer to Norwood has 110 children, and these are all between the ages of 6 months and 7 years old. On a daily basis, there are 2 buses from each one of those daycare centers that take the children to the different schools and then pick them up. They don't go out Route 59. They don't go out to Stearns. They can't get out. They go down Braintree. Out of the 210 children that are there, I would imagine that there are 210 family members that are driving down Braintree to get back to Stearns Road. 60% of the people that have their children at these 2 daycare centers live in Bartlett. They have to go east on Stearns. Maybe not all of them, but a large majority of them. There's no safe way to turn left onto Stearns Road out of the egress there at the Walgreens. We did make an improvement on the egress on Route 59. We made it wider so that it would accommodate higher speed turns into that shopping center. There are 2 businesses there that can't get out and do their normal traffic to get out of this center. So no matter what we do, if we don't do the light at Norwood, we're creating more traffic on Braintree. I think the first option is probably the best one. It eliminates a lot of moving parts along Stearns Road, but we would have to put the traffic light at Norwood to give people a safe way, and the families who are picking up children between 6 months and 7 years old to go home and have a safe dinner. We've heard statements that, we've had this setup for 24 years, nothing has changed. Was the Dominic's there 24 years ago?
Dominic's south of there.
Oh, okay. I think you used to have to take a taxi cab from the egress at Brewster Creek to the middle of Route 59 because it was only 2 lanes. So there were a lot of things that weren't there. And a lot of these egresses are grandfathered because at one point in time, Route 59 was 2 lanes with the south shoulder. Now it's 6 lanes. So the frontage road is encroached upon certain egresses where you're within walking distance to Route 59. There's too many moving parts too close to Route 59. The only decision that I have is, or choice that I would make, is the original plans, where we don't allow a left turn there. This less accidents? I don't know. Have we had any fatalities there? I didn't catch that answer. Chief, do we have any fatalities at that intersection?
Not to his knowledge in the last 3 years.
That would be part of that. But think about it.
So I did do a little research. I did go and talk to the businesses there. I mean, I knew we have a couple of emails that they don't want from a couple of the businesses there that they don't like this. But the daycare center those are little kids trying to get home. That's a big portion of the moving parts at that parking lot. So I would appreciate you guys taking that into consideration when you look at this.
I'd like to see some further evaluation of what we need to do at Norwood and how we would fund those improvements, because it seems to me that the consensus is whatever option we adopt, we're going to want to make those improvements at Norwood.
Okay.
So can we do some further research and come up with some funding schemes?
We can.
And figure out how to do that?
That sounds
We
good.
absolutely can.
Also, just so we maybe get a little further along, I think this is probably hopefully the last option that we'll view for at least the Stearns side of it. Maybe we should try to start thinking about this in stages where, we do something and then see what the result is. Because I don't think anybody really takes into account the fact that, if we widen this Stearns portion of this road, maybe a lot of problems that we're thinking are there now will be solved. So I would suggest that we think about, instruct staff to think about how we can do this, and I don't know how difficult that is, but get something done and see the result. And then get another thing, and if it's not working that way, if we still have this traffic issue, move on to something else. I know it can get more expensive that way because IDOT's got to do all their stuff at once, but maybe it gives us a little better understanding.
Let's take a look at that.
Yeah, okay.
Jim, how many more parcels are north of Oil Masters that can go commercial? Do you know?
There really is just one parcel. It's kind of hard to see, but here, let me try to pull this one up. Right, Oil Masters is right here. There's one parcel just to the north, and this medical building. It doesn't show on this, but it's just north of that dentist office.
So not much else can be built there.
Right.
Okay.
It's not as, the property looks big, but most of that is a wetland, so there's a little partial part. So maybe you can get another office building there.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
One more
Yep.
statement. Brett said at the last meeting that first option that I put out, then we went for the compromise.
Dennis, can you go over to the mic, because otherwise it's not going to get picked up.
That the first option that IDOT put out, which we didn't like, and we went for the compromise, that if we did the compromise and we ever wanted to, and it wasn't working for whatever reason, he said the additional cost to go back to the first original plan was only $20-some thousand. To me, that makes it the compromise that we put together that the residents like, the shopping center likes, $20,000 away from the plan that nobody liked, but it's still only $20,000.
Yeah.
Would you agree with that, Brett?
I think the big issue with kind of the second plan was the lack of 2 left turn lanes. And that's something that you can't change for $20,000. That's something that would be, you'd have to re-engineer the entire intersection. I'm not an engineer, but I'm thinking. So I think what they were talking about was, well, if we did this and we didn't like it, you could kind of fix it for $20,000, but you wouldn't be able to send it back to a 2 left turn lane intersection. That's where some of the board concern was.
It would be expensive because you would only have your 1 left turn lane, and you'd go back to dual lefts, and you'd have to reconfigure the signals.
Maybe you can clarify for us, Jim, that $20,000 fix that we were talking about a little bit.
I think there was some talk that if this left turn lane into the shopping center didn't work, and you could put barricades up here and just close this exit off and close this entrance. But you have this. This is actually a solid median. That has to be ripped out, and then this lane then goes to the left. It's another left turn, and you have to reconfigure the way the signals are for making this a dual left. It's more expensive than that. You could shut it off quickly, but I think you're looking at a more expensive
The concrete work
proposition.
might be $20,000. Maybe that's what he was talking about.
Any other questions? Then the consensus is we're going to
Back to the drawing board.
get some more information.
Thank
And that would be all we have
Thank
this
you.
evening on planning and zoning. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chairman. Camera. Next item we have on our committee as a whole agenda this evening is under the Finance Committee. Chairman Ranke.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Finish up our budget information.
Right. As I was about to say, we're returning to the finance, the proposed budget review. I believe we're looking at the golf
That's correct.
department. All right. Well, get it done.
I think we'll do the actual golf portion of this budget that Phil's responsible
Good evening,
for
and
up
thank
front.
The Bartlett Hills Golf budget for 2015-16. We are projecting revenues to go down about 5% off of what we budgeted last year, mostly due to the downturn in rounds of golf being played. We are budgeting, our budget is all rounds driven. We are forecasting 35,500 rounds, which is a 5-year average off of what we've done in 5 years. Our expenses are going to decrease by 22%, mostly due to the retirement of Bob Gavalik, our former general manager and golf professional. We are excited about the upcoming season. We do have some new events scheduled. I have a spring scramble this Saturday that's been well received. We've got about 40 players so far playing in that. We've got 4 nights set aside on Fridays throughout the summer for couples golf to grow some revenue that will be coordinated with food and beverage as well. Also new is the PGA of America. We are doing a PGA Junior Golf League, which is a very neat thing. It's a Little League-based golf competition. Our team from Bartlett Hills, once we get it together, is going to travel to Mill Creek, St. Andrews, other golf courses in the area, and compete in a great environment with other kids. I apologize. It's not a formal competition. It is a fun-based competition for the kids in Bartlett. We've opened up. You'll see it in the Examiner tomorrow. We've got a quarter-page ad going in there. Going forward into our line items, our capital outlay, we are requesting a new HVAC unit for the office and the clubhouse. That is part of an HVAC replacement program. It is an outdated unit that's about 5 years beyond its life expectancy at this point. The display units for the golf shop are being taken out, and we are asking that we seal coat and restripe the parking lot. That is a preventive maintenance for the parking lot. It is also the first impression you see when you drive into Bartlett Hills is that parking lot that needs to be restriped and seal coated.
Well, let's talk about the 2 display units for the golf shop.
We're taking those out of the...
Okay, so those are stricken?
Those are stricken,
okay.
Yes. I'm in professional development. The Orlando Merchandise Show and the education programs down there are going to be stricken as well. We'll do all our education and seminars in state here. We have no new personnel requests for this year. And at this point, if you have any questions in regards to our line items, I'll answer them for you.
On page 9, you have a line item for automotive supplies, which is proposed to decrease by 1%. What sort of supplies are we talking about? I mean, the golf course doesn't have a vehicle, does it?
Golf carts. It's due to the age of the golf carts.
Okay. So there's no vehicle assigned to the golf.
No. That is parts and materials for golf carts that are about 4 years old now.
Okay. The utility mower listed on page 15, which is item number 2, in the grounds portion. $36,000 for the mower. Have not requested to replace it in previous years. Is that something that we can push back, or what's the condition of that mower?
That mower is also outgrown its life expectancy by about 2 or 3 years now. It's integral to Kevin's operation. It does the approaches to greens and also some of the mounds that we have at the golf course. Again, vital to the appearance of the golf course.
Okay, thank you.
Can't do it.
But we could get something from selling the old one, you think?
There would be a trade-in, and I would have to ask Kevin what we would get for that, but he would be trading that 2003 John Deere in, yes.
Yeah, you can't get different.
Well, one of the things that I don't understand is if you completely eliminate somebody's benefits, salary, and everything, and we're not adding any employees, wouldn't the amount requested equal exactly what the estimated final is from last year minus everything that we paid, Bob?
Reflect, you mean? You would reflect instead of... Reflects
Yeah.
the word you were looking for.
I'm just looking at total personnel services. You know, we have 385,149 is where we're estimated to end at. And if I
What page
subtract...
are you on?
Pardon me? Page 9. If I subtract 290,432, I only come up with $95,327 difference in salaries and benefits. And Bob probably was somewhere in 150.
Bob didn't retire until October.
Okay, so some of
There's
this
a half year of expense in the estimate.
Okay. So that's why we were lower than what we budgeted last year.
Yeah.
Okay. So that makes a little bit of sense to me. But then it would actually be more than that, wouldn't it?
Um,
13. I guess it's easier to go back to 13, 14 and subtract it out. That's about right, 165-ish.
Yeah, in salary, that's about right.
Okay. So what we're saying is that we budgeted $396,759 in 14-15. Because he retired in October, we only spent about $385.
Right, and a lot of times we'll budget conservatively, and by the end of this year, that could come in lower. It probably will.
Okay. That satisfies my answer. Thank you. I'm not very good with math, so I have to use my calculator.
Need a chalkboard?
Ed, you didn't do my mortgage.
Going forward to food and beverage, going to driving range and the rest of the seven things. Under all food and beverage restaurant, around page 26, we have no personnel requests for the year. There's no capital outlay as far as related to the restaurant itself goes. Under professional development, the only items under there for the hourly employees, the gas training, food management certification, that the employees are putting on a line now. All whatever out-of-state travel for them is all taken out. Professional cook station detail, there is nothing. It's the same as against that. And it's from the Gulf restaurant. If you have any questions about specific restaurant line items, I can answer those before we go into the next.
I knew good knives were expensive, but $450 for a knife?
Sharpening them.
Is that one or is that a set?
It's sharpening them.
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
That's a large set.
Oh, okay. Miss Granzi?
Mastranzi's. They live in town.
Anzi. Son played college or semi-pro basketball in Italy.
They do a lot of work in Chicago with knives.
I'm not complaining. I was just,
Yeah.
I was naive to that.
Page number 33, priority number 3, the refrigerated glass front cooler. We're replacing a custom unit. Is the replacement also a custom?
No, the replacement's going to be a generic unit instead.
Okay.
Good call.
I might as well go through the items on this page at the same time. Items 1 and 2 are really kind of grouped together. When the building was started, we bought a combination refrigerator freezer unit that worked out of the same motor and everything else. The building's 18 years old. They have about a 15-year life average. So what we have is we have one on life support there that's just been turned on for the year to go ahead and get started. We're going to buy 2 separate units, which have a much better repair record than the combo unit has. And really what we spent in there for the last 2 years, between that one unit, we'll easily pay for the one unit in the thousands of dollars for maintenance. And that's a food handling issue, a temperature issue. That's just automatic when it comes to one of those. So it's 3 years beyond where it should be. The glass cooler itself is a custom unit that they fitted on the cook's line to take care of a space issue that was over there. That unit, because of how it was configured, has a difficult time operating correctly
because of just the way it's conformed. It's so tall, and the motors at the bottom, and there's a lot of working parts going on. That costs us on an annual basis about $1,000 a year just to maintain. It's already at that level right now to where we're going to get rid of that and just put a generic unit in instead. That's a unit that's going to be a little bit larger than what it is right now to handle our increased banquet capacity also. And going along that same theme, the hot box and plate warmer. Right now we have a hot box that we would store all the wedding plates as we assemble them. We can do about 150 in the one hot box we have. And then we kind of wing the rest when we get to around 200 for where we went ahead and put them. If we get down to 250, 260, that's simply too difficult for us to do without another hot box to do actually. So that would be a necessity for us to go ahead and get up to the council looking at. We are also doing a lot more rentals where people are bringing in food that we need to store, taking some of our hot oven space up. They'll bring in some ethnic buffets and everything else that we're doing. So we're losing more and more oven space that we're leaving ourselves open to make some room rental revenue. So it's important to get another hot box in there. And then finally, to go along with that would be the dance floor pieces. The dance floor right now is about 500 square feet. This will get it to about 600 square feet, and you're simply going to need to have it larger than what we can for the people who adequately enjoy themselves throughout the evening. That's including dance floor pieces, frames, and the rack to go ahead and hold the pieces when the dance floor gets moved down. One of the good things that the bride is liking when she's walking in is instead of the little L, she had to work around the dining room. Now it's a big rectangle. The dance floor is movable anywhere in the room right now. So that gives her another, you put the dance floor in the middle, you can put the dance floor on one end of the building. We weren't able to do that before and do the expansion. That's one of the big things we're hearing about. It's a real big deal right now. So the dance floor to get bigger is important.
Bob, I thought we enlarged the bar area so people wouldn't be dancing. You would be spending time in the bar area.
And we added the wood floor in the bar area, so that could be part of the new.
I think we should have Trustee Carbonaro demonstrate the new dance floor for us.
He was out there the other day.
Yeah, we had him in there on Friday.
Let me ask you a question. Seriously, do we charge a premium when they bring in their own food? Like, are we charging at a premium? Because it seems to me like we should. I mean, I don't know the business, but if people are bringing in their own food, we should probably be charging like a premium for the space.
It is a premium.
Okay.
You know what those are used for? A lot of times if you have wedding dates on weekends that you know are going to stay open, and most of these people who do the room rentals do it on the last minute. They want to get it done in a month and a half, where you're sure you're not going to be able to get the wedding price out of it. So you pass around a good room rental fee, and it's a good filler in there. But those room rentals are up to the thousands.
Okay.
To offset the cost of the staff, you still have to have on and everything else.
All right. Thank you.
And we've had how many weddings for the or events for the larger room accommodation?
Right. We have so far on the books right now. We have 4 with counts of projected estimate counts of about 250, which otherwise they wouldn't even considered us. So that's a big thing. The other thing is that the interesting part of it is even during the off season when people were booking, it was just an ardent rendering of what the building would look like. You're ending up with a lot of other weddings that their estimates are ending in the 200, 210 category, whereas our normal amount would be 140 to about 160 or so. So people are envisioning themselves with a larger count being in that room. Therefore, our average wedding count, I assume, is going to go up, and we'll be able to see how that goes for a couple of years. And you can see that as another added benefit for what we did. Then line items under banquets. If there's any questions, I can certainly do that. Midway's at the end, but there's really nothing beyond in the midway budget.
There's no capital.
Nope.
Well, let me ask you about advertising. You have a $20,000 budget for a variety of advertising venues. Do we examine how effective the different advertising mechanisms are?
We really do. We have a couple of very computer literate people that can go through Google Analytics and see how people are getting our websites, where they're coming from, and we certainly through the NOT and Wedding Wire especially, and here comes the guy, you can tell where they're coming from, how much time they're spending, and I think we've targeted a lot of the ones that are really critical to be in on.
Okay. So you wouldn't make any changes to this
You know,
list?
we leave ourselves always open with that couple $1,000s to take advantage of last-minute stuff that comes up if you see a real good opportunity that makes sense. Now, I wouldn't change anything in there. In fact, the knot where we spend the most of our money, you can look at other, there's probably 78 venues under the knot that come up when they search our particular area. And at 52 positive reviews, 5-star reviews, we have the most amount of positive reviews of any other wedding venue that pops up on the knot.com. So that's pretty impressive for the mayor and his staff have been able to go ahead and take care of.
Do you do any wedding expos, or is that not cost effective?
You know, not generally worth the amount of money you have to go ahead and pay to go ahead and get into them. Generally, carrying the events out well and doing them properly and getting those reviews on the websites, that's huge. Brides come in and they know where you stand with that stuff.
Yeah. Very good.
And if that's the case, how does our price stack up to the ones that don't have any reviews?
We're right in the middle, I'd say.
So it gives us an opportunity to maybe...
Well, that's one of our initiatives, besides all the stuff that we've tried to accomplish for the year, with liquor on the golf course and credit card machines, whatever. One of the things we're going to do that we're really close to doing, probably a few weeks away, is to have a tiered wedding package.
Yeah.
Where you see you roll out the Cadillac package, and it's awfully hard to, even though we have a value-added main or lower level, you roll out the more Cadillac item, and the odds are you probably get a lot more add-ons that way.
That way it makes the father cry. Yeah. This is called Dad Cries Package.
With 5 kids,
of the bride.
Yeah.
That's a good opportunity to go ahead and capitalize on that.
Yeah. Good stuff. Good to hear.
Do you have any ex-trustee discounts? I've got 3 daughters.
We can talk after the meeting.
You get charged a premium.
Let me just tell you, though, from an overall perspective, as we go through looking at the revenues and the expenses on golf, we're projecting that the whole operation will, this coming year, break even, and that hasn't happened in many years. And so I'm really very pleased to tell you that and look forward to it playing itself out this year, and I'm very confident that that's going to happen.
Yeah, I would actually caveat, I think it's going to make money this year. Look,
right.
we weren't under 190,000 last year, and we cut 190,000 out.
Right.
So I think
Absolutely.
with every bit of confidence in the new size of that place and the golf going up and the new energy. So let's do it.
Knock on wood.
And tell them about this weekend, what we're having to celebrate the Masters.
You know, the tie-in a little bit of what we got going on with the bar menu and everything, how we're going to try to keep people here a lot longer and get some, and try to work out new ways to go ahead and keep the golfers in the seats to go ahead and watch golf tournaments and stuff. So this Masters weekend, we're going to kind of piggyback on what the Masters does, and Thursday through Sunday we're offering a couple of food specials. If you've been to the Masters, they have egg salad sandwiches, pimento and cheese sandwiches at a really reduced rate, about $1.50. We won't be able to do that, but we're going to have those items. And for a drink item, we're going to do a Georgia Peach with vodka, peach schnapps, or lemonade. And,
Did you bring any samples?
So we're going to do that, rotate through the majors as we go, and then see how we can keep doing the very successful special menus that we did all last year.
It's fantastic.
First opportunity to give that a try.
And a lot of the things that Phil's talked about, the events that Phil talked about, because we have the larger bar area, we're able to accommodate that without spilling over into the banquet area.
Good.
So it's given us a lot more flexibility for smaller golf events that are happening in the bar.
Fantastic.
Well, can't you do like a March Madness? I know it's a different sport, but you could do the same thing for March Madness.
Absolutely. Whether you go Super Bowl, whatever you want to do with Black Box or Continental World, you're absolutely time.
I'm sorry, what was
Don't
the
hold
last
your
part?
breath.
When the country so well this year?
Yeah.
A lot of opportunities.
I want to make reference to page 39 that the staff over at the golf course performed, looks like $500 worth of services, or proposed to do the $500 worth of services to kind of, chip in, and I appreciate that, and I wanted to say that. And I saw in the change order that the staff worked hard, and I know that we're hard on the golf course. I know it's challenging, but thank you for your hard work, and thanks for making a change.
I think it was all the way through coming to his staff, and his staff and our staff. So we've got a lot of good hourly people
Thanks. Thank you.
Tell them it's appreciated.
And who knows, one of those people might end up as assistant to the village administrator one day or so.
Can I make a recommendation? We start talking about food at the next year's thing very early in the meeting. We don't need to be talking about banquets and drinks and stuff this late in the meeting. So
with that, we're done with golf. And, wow.
Those are the departments.
Yeah. Okay, so it's getting kind of late, and I'm going to...
Another item?
Yeah.
No, the only, and this is a small item, but when we had the list of places where the board supports the community events, we have a list that you've had for several years, and nothing really has changed besides a reduction. We had the additional request. We have not responded. And so I guess I need you to say we want to keep the list the same as we've had it, and we're not expanding it, or we want to expand it and throw this new one in there.
my suggestion would...
I'm sorry. When you say the list, you mean the amount or the number of?
The groups, the groups that you fund, from the arts group to there's a list in here, and none of those amounts have changed. One of the amounts went down, but we have had an additional request this year for the first time, and I think it's just appropriate that you folks make a decision on that so we respond appropriately.
And they followed the protocol that we set up?
Not yet. That's not until next year.
Not until next year.
Oh.
So we don't have the process for you to go.
These are kind of the grandfathered ones. The last
that's what
year
we
of
did.
Yeah,
we
the
took
last
the
year
old
of
ones and put them in there.
the folks. And
How
it would be
much
my
is it requesting?
It would be my suggestion, just because of these groups, depending on these amounts, my opinion is to do what we've been doing for the last 10 years, and because the next year it's all going to change anyway. That's my opinion.
How much are they requesting?
$500.
$500? That's the library?
It's Friends of the Library.
Friends of the library.
And that's in addition to the regular ones that we've already had, you're saying?
We don't fund the library in that list.
No.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you properly.
So, in other words, the list and the amount hasn't changed from last year with the exception of this $500 for Friends of the Library.
That's correct. And one decrease.
Actually, one of them went down, right? One of them went from 8,000 down to 5,000.
That's right. One decrease.
So our total overall is actually going down.
It is.
Then I'd say let's lock it.
It's this year. People are relying on it. It's shame on us for not putting some system in prior to this, but next year it'll be different. So I would suggest.
I agree.
Yeah.
Let's lock it.
Thank you. Least I forget, we have a PowerPoint from the police department about the vehicle that the board requested additional information. Sitting there quietly.
As long as there's no food or drink on this.
Beef, take it away, if that's okay.
Food and drink.
I promise you. I told them last week it would only be 15 minutes. I think I talked for an hour, so they're not trusting me. I'll make this quick.
Give us the.
Let me go to the
Podium.
Take the lounge singer approach.
This doesn't have a butterfly in it, does
Hello,
it?
hello. Yeah, this is the one we have. Let's see if I can
The
get this
urban
to work.
assault vehicle?
Yeah,
This is the $300,000.
it's not going to work.
Top mounted 50 cal.
Oh, man.
I'll be back.
We have to turn this whoosh into muscle.
Oh, you know what? It's not up. Is it full?
You could always just beep every time you needed to go and Scott could hit the space bar.
I know. I try to overlook it.
Okay. All right, this is the one we have presently. It's a retrofitted 1992 F-350, get donated to us, or actually it was a swap with a station wagon many years ago with the fire department. We've had it for many years now, since 2005. It's about 22 years old, and there'll never be a mileage issue with command posts because we don't put a lot of mileage on it. But you can see now we're getting to the point, most recently, there's a lot of maintenance going into that. I can just point out the interior of it. It's not a true command post. It's more of a rally point. We got one chair in there where a guy can write a report, and most everybody else kind of bends over a little bit and tries to talk out of the elements the best they can. What we're suggesting is this is it. We do use it a lot, quite a bit, as a matter of fact. It's a rally point during any multi-jurisdictional event or any serious accident or a missing child or a missing person. And you can see what we really do is rally around it. Go ahead. And we'll put the maps on the side of it. And that's fine unless you got rain or snow or cold weather and things like that. We do have an awning that we've attached to it that can come over in case it's drizzling, but in a severe rainstorm it doesn't work at all. What we're proposing is a 2013 Freightliner, completely designed to be a police emergency command post. That being said, there's awning on both sides. There's scene lighting all the way around 360. It can literally light up a scene like daylight in an intersection or in a neighborhood. Go ahead. This is one of the scenes inside. You can see it's truly designed for command staff or trustees or a mayor or anybody that wants to come in and get an update on a scene. It seats, go back. It seats 6 on one side and 6 on the other, but you can see on the one side it flips up, so you don't have to use it, or it flips down to allow a larger pass-through or to use the actual marker boards. It's designed with several computer screens and the ability to monitor multi-news agencies simultaneously, along with its marker boards for planning. Go ahead. It's just another scene looking the other way. In the back of the command post, there are 3 primary workstations for individuals who can have computers literally set up at those stations doing reports and or graphing an intersection during a fatal accident. So it's really designed to get personnel out of the elements and create a meeting space for command staff and an ability to have computers, GIS, and television incoming intelligence from outside sources. Go ahead, I think there's another one. And these are just some schematics on it. I can tell you we could talk all night, and I can provide the board with the information on how it's designed. It's not a mobile home. It's not a recreational vehicle. It's literally retrofitted with all kinds of interior steel. There are no rivets. There are no seals. It's overlapped with welds. There's no seals that can get old and leak, and there's no rivets that can rust and leak. And it's designed to be a viable source of operational efficiency for us for 25 years minimum. So, and I just want to reiterate, I would not have asked for it if it was coming out of my actual operations budget.
How big is the awning on this one?
I'm sorry?
How big is the awning?
The awning on it is it's 33. The awning, I believe, is about 20 feet long on both sides. It has both sides.
Is this used, Chief?
I'm sorry?
Is it used?
No, this is not used. This is a new vehicle.
Who makes
it?
it?
2000.
LDV, they are in emergency services arena. There's like 2 in the country, and they are one of the big dogs, if not the biggest. They do all the stuff for FEMA and all the local SWAT teams, NIPUS, and federal agencies, FBI, DEA. And what's really nice about them is they're right over the border in Wisconsin, just over the border.
But there's not things like bathroom facilities in it or anything like that?
We would actually elect not to. You could have a bathroom put in it. It's an extra charge, and we just felt like we'll never be that far out. When a sheriff's department has it, there's always a bathroom. I don't think we have a need for that. We'd rather have an extra workspace, to be honest with you.
Chief, just to put a very fine point on this, no taxpayer dollars will be used to fund this vehicle?
For the purchase of the vehicle, not $1, no.
Okay. This is all coming from seizure money?
That's all comes from seizure money. That's correct.
Thank you.
And when you're driving it around, it gets about 1 mile to the gallon every time?
Probably about 1 mile. That's why we look forward to low mileage. Yeah, low mileage and...
when you guys take it up to Canada on a fishing trip...
No, that is not what this is designed for. Maybe the Bears game at time. No, we're not the Bears game.
Chief, you can't drive it, you have to tow it.
Will they decal it with Bartlett stuff on the side of it?
Yeah, it will be. It'll have all our graphics on the side. Village of Bartlett, emergency command vehicle.
Yeah, but if you leave it like that, you put ice cream on the side.
Yeah, I could use it Yeah, that's true.
Retractable barbecue pit?
Yeah. I would actually recommend that we put some, then they do have for big things like this, some signage on the side, and it's done very eloquently, this vehicle purchase with money seized from drug forfeiture.
They have these in stock, or are they customized?
This one's actually in stock. This is the one we're looking at. Yeah.
Chief, I know you and I talked about this a couple of times, and I'll just kind of bring up some of my concerns. But while I certainly recognize this is being paid for by 36-1 or some other forfeiture money or whatever, and that's cool, but I guess from a trustee perspective, I look at it and I go, why wouldn't we use that money to buy some of the other things that we're now paying for with taxpayer money?
It's a great question. With the task force we're a part of, there are only some things you can do. It can, if it's a permanent part of your operational budget, like buying the new fleet or purchasing, paying for the gas for the fleet, that actually falls outside the auspice of what we can use monies for with this task force. It's actually declared what you cannot use those monies for, and it's pretty specific. So what they really want police departments to use this money for is things that they would not otherwise budget for that they can actually use operationally immediately. Now that being prefaced, the officer we have in the task force, you could hire a new officer and pay his salary to replace the person we put in the task force. But that's an additional officer with additional expenses and additional insurance and additional pensions, and it's just not. I just didn't think that was a wise way to use this money.
Use the money for a second canine.
I'm sorry?
Could use the money for a second canine.
The answer to that is I believe you could. You could use that. We'd use a member that we already have, and we could use it to purchase the dog, the initial training, and probably the vehicle and equipment.
Are we going to have any money left over after we buy this?
Considerable.
But this money isn't a constant stream. I mean,
that's exactly right, and that's the concern. You cannot use it for things, and they won't let you use it for things that are part of your budgetary obligation because the relationship could sever tomorrow.
So we could get another dog, but if the money ran out, then that's another budget expense in our budget.
Well, it is. It's ongoing training, and the training and the maintenance of the animal himself and the maintenance on that vehicle, that is an ongoing expense. You're absolutely right.
Whereas with this, if the money runs out, it just sits there.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
So the money can't be used for maintaining this vehicle?
No, that would come out of my vehicle maintenance allotment, which I don't see.
I know you had mentioned one time, Chief, that there obviously are different levels of this, and I would guess anyway, this is probably maybe the Cadillac. There's probably a Porsche, and there's probably a Ford, right? So.
Yeah, it's we went up there and we toured and we looked at all the different styles, and you can get one half the size, but then you have half the uses for it, and you can get one. This is not the Cadillac, believe it or not. This is kind of this is kind of the Chevy.
Okay.
When you look at what the federal government buys, I mean, there are another 25. You can put about another 12 feet with dual axles, and then they have the big flare-outs that come out and they triple the size of the width. And you get these big hydraulic office spaces, and believe it or not, those are very common. That's not what we need.
Is this in bulletproof?
It is not bulletproof, no.
Jeez, I'm not going down there then.
Chief, if I can finish up my last few questions.
I'm sorry.
So, how long is this unit?
Was it 30? This one particular? 33 feet. You do not need a CDL. We made sure you did.
Okay. And part of your budget, too, we're talking a lot, and a lot of the long-range planning is about a facility.
Yes, that's
there's
correct.
no parking anymore at the police department.
Yeah.
Where are we going to park this?
Well, that's a great question. There's a part along the north side that if we move the present command post and move the speed trailers off to the side, we could get it along there. But you're right, it is parked outside. As we move in, we might want to look into.
I guess that's one of my concerns a little bit is. It's easy to spend drug money because it's not taxpayer money, but we're going to spend $300,000 on a vehicle that we're going to use a couple times a year, and we're going to leave it parked outside.
Yeah, you're right. We're going to leave it parked outside, and we'll use it probably closer to 30 times a year. So just to be accurate, yeah.
I'm wondering if it would actually fit into the garage that's over by the water tower. We use that for storage?
We haven't researched that yet. We could look into that. But I don't want to step on my partner's toes either. I'm not sure what his space needs are. We're all cramped for space. You're right, Trustee.
Again, that's one of my concerns. I know, there's been some very, very early talk about a new public safety facility, and I've made my views on that very public. And I think that this would be a great thing to have parked inside of some type of garage for it, or some type of covering for it. But that facility, I mean, we all know, may or may not happen at all. If it does, it could be 5 or 10 years down the road. And I hate to see this kind of sitting outside getting lot rot until we have a place to put it.
That's a valid concern.
The, down by the water facility, not for you, Chief, isn't, I mean, I've been in there a couple times. Is there extra space down there?
I can't answer that question. I haven't been in it in a long time. Not much, I don't think.
Yes.
Is there extra space? No.
Okay. Why not? No, I'm kidding. I'm messing with you.
Maybe you could negotiate $280,000 and use $20,000 to build a little roof carport over the top. You know? All right, so I think Chief's probably looking for some direction on this.
I think it's a good idea, especially with it's found money.
I think it's not coming out of our budget, then
well spent.
go right ahead.
It would be well spent.
And it sounds like you've done a lot of research on what you'd really need to spend it on.
Yeah, it's
increasing craziness over
I think,
our world.
believe it or not, I think every police department would have a command post if it didn't go on the backs of the taxpayers. I really do. And if you look at departments that are fortunate enough to have these type of funds, this is the type of things they tend to go to.
How's the heaters in there?
I'm sorry?
The heaters?
Yeah, they're pretty state of the art.
I think the next board should have their annual January meeting in there then.
We can do that.
Do you want a straw poll?
Sure.
Chairman?
I'm in favor. I'm in favor.
Oh, we all voted, but I'm going to say no. I would say yes.
Yes.
And I would say that that's a pretty clear directive. I think that's approval enough.
Thank you for your direction. I appreciate your direction.
Yeah.
They'll let West Chicago use it too, right?
Not now.
How you voted against it?
Where are we at here?
Okay, we are at the point where we're going to do something about this electric tax, right?
Yes. I talked to Trustee Ranky briefly before the meeting and said if there was some appropriate direction to the staff, then we would prepare whatever ordinances or resolutions or whatever Brian says we would need to take action on for the next meeting. It can be, if it can be ready for the next meeting.
Okay. So just so we're
Or
all
the
clear.
meeting after.
Yeah, staff,
I need to know what the direction is.
Staff's worked really hard to carve out enough to eliminate up to X amount of dollars of these utility tax.
Yeah, so we may have
Do you
to
know?
fiddle
Do you
with
know
it
the
a
amount?
little bit.
Will we know an amount next meeting?
I think what we have is an amount, and we work backwards to get to that amount.
Okay.
That's what we intend. That's what I thought the intent was.
The electric utility ordinance, and I don't recall exactly, but it's based on therms and usage, and there's tax. So we were pretty close when we thought what it would project. So if you give us an amount, we'll try and put it into therm language. And I don't know how long that'll take, but relatively short. And then we would pass an ordinance, and then it has to go to ComEd, and there's you got to meet their billing schedule and time. It isn't effective immediately, but it would then kick in to reduce the electric utility tax.
But from a budget, sorry to interrupt, from a budget perspective, since we're having the conversation within the context of the budget, so we're going to decide that we're going to cut the electric utility tax. We have a value of that, and then we're going to work backwards and make cuts from the budget to justify or enable us
I
to do
think
that.
those cuts have already been made. I think there isn't much left to come out of there, but I think when you look at the amount of cuts you have in this budget, it far surpasses the $300,000 level.
Okay, well, I look forward to seeing what you have to give us next time then.
I'm sorry?
Well, you'll have an ordinance prepared, and we've
Right.
already done the work, and we'll get it done.
I just didn't hear that.
We should-
100,000?
We should be able to cut out as much as whatever we freed up, right?
What's the total that we have earned, like, from last year, from this tax?
Jack?
No.
Total for the electric. For the electric.
Yes.
600,000 for electric tax.
Excuse me, I can't hear you.
For the electric, it's 600,000.
We do it over a 4-year
Are you
period.
asking how much you want the ordinance to be?
I'm kind of, I don't know, you tell me.
Why don't we do
Okay,
it this
because
way?
I think we were talking about two different things here.
I think
you were
you're-
asking how much you want the ordinance to be, and Trustee Martin was asking how much money
We've
the ordinance
raised.
took in.
Right,
So let's
that
just
I caught that.
Why don't we cut it by, well, that's, I want us to be balanced too, and, if we've already saved 300,000, then that would be half. You can do it over a 3 or 4 year period, and that would give you more time to move stuff around, and we just cut it, and cut it.
I appreciate that. I am comfortable if the board cuts the electric in half and does it in one motion, one resolution. I think that our budget, certainly the one we have brought to you and you have reviewed, can accommodate that cut.
That's clear to me.
That's clear.
That I understand.
Anyone object?
I would also like to see maybe if we looked at half of the gas. One or the other. One's larger than the other. I would like to see half of the gas utility tax looked at as a reduction.
How much do the
But
gas?
focusing on the electric, the gas is twice as much.
So what you're saying is you think we found $800,000 in extra spending, and we cut it out? Is that what you're trying to suggest?
Half of the gas would be 500.
Okay, plus 300.
No, I didn't say plus. If you're going to start, why start on the electric? Start on the gas. It's a little bit higher. That's what I'm saying.
Then we got to cut another $200,000.
Let's start this way. How much do you think we probably trimmed off this? Of all of the things that we've discussed, it's going to be somewhere around $300,000 of the original budget. Okay. A little over $300,000. So why wouldn't the amount that we came up with, we transfer that over to Brian and say, make it for this amount? So you add up what we've cut, what we've trimmed, what's came back, and then
Credited.
that's what we said we were going to do the last time.
Right.
We'll try to find as much as we can.
Okay.
And what we found already, it might be 350, it might be we know it's at least 300, it might be 400,000, whatever that is, we get it over to Brian and say, prepare the ordinance this way.
Yeah.
We can do that. Honestly, it's not quite as
Right, I know
neat as...
It would be nice if it was that
It would be nice
easy.
if it, but you have to remember that part of those savings that we've been doing for years will help us be able to have the flexibility to eliminate that. And we looked at it the other day, that's 8 positions that are still open that come to about, frankly, $700,000. And those are little chips that we make, but they're saving every year. Now, some of those might have to come back at some point, but as long as we're saving as we go along, that is an exact science, but it certainly leads us to the position of being able to be comfortable. I'm certainly comfortable with a 50% cut out of the electric, which is roughly $300,000.
Let's try to make it 50% off the other, let's just see what it is.
Well, maybe every year.
We go through and we see what we've cut. If it's over 300, let's don't stop at 300,000, because what I want to make sure that everybody understands, I think that one of the things that I want to do moving forward is make sure that we're not consistently over these fund balances. Because at this time, and our residents really are we should be pushing on the underside of those fund balances, if anything, because people are still scraping by. I hear it. And with U46 not stopping on their tax increases, they're going to be worse. It's going to get worse.
Okay.
So
then in the general fund, you have a lot of flexibility.
Okay. Well, that's really where I would like to see it. I don't know about the rest of the board, but I would rather see the village working on less of a margin and residents getting more of a margin than backwards.
Well, I think that's right. The only thing I will...
If you keep it in place, and every year you give a rebate, then you...
I think that
and
gets
then-
complicated, though.
Yeah, well, it could be, but, I mean, you don't know what the governor's going to do, for one. And so it's in place, and then, hey, we've made the numbers, and we've saved money again, then we can give, every year we give them a rebate.
Yeah.
I mean, that...
Well, we budget on an annual basis, and there's no way to know exactly what's going to happen in the future.
Right.
So your point's well taken. But I think that the staff has very clear direction that we're going to cut the electric utility tax in half. We'll have an ordinance that we can vote on next time. Thank you very much.
All right.
Can I say one thing? I just want to make a quick comment about, I mean, that when the fund balance, I understand and appreciate your comment about having it on the underside. On keeping it right in the middle, though, helps us with flexibility when you have a whole lot of people and you folks saying, gee, we'd like to see this $500,000 light work. I mean, sometimes that flexibility helps. We got Emerald Ash Borer taken care of more quickly than any other town around because we had that flexibility. I think that flexibility is important because you don't know what's going to hit us.
I agree.
Well, do we need to reevaluate our or our balance policies then?
I think we're within our. I think we're well within our bond policies. Okay. But if we start looking at, playing the underside too far, then we just can't do anything as it comes and hits us because we're locked in. And I think that flexibility has been important to our residents and the issues that they have brought to us.
Yeah. I think the general perception of folks that I talk to would rather have, and that's a really good analogy, the general perception of the folks that I talk to, including my wife, would rather have the village pinching, and saying, oh, man, we're getting close to that low amount versus all the residents saying, I've been doing this for 4 years, So I think you get the point. I appreciate everybody's work on this. This has been a really big challenge. We have some really conservative people up here, and I'm glad for it. And we'll push for what we can. So thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else?
That's it, President.
All right. Thank you, Chairman Ranke. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
It's moved by Trustee Kammer, seconded by Trustee Carbonaro. The clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Aarons left the meeting at 8:25. Kammerer?
Yes.
Carbonaro?
Yes.
Martin?
Yes.
Ranke?
Yes.
Shipman?
Yes.